Anya Kuznetsov's voice was flat. Victor, you should stick with the pistol. Chloe Vance nodded in agreement. Whatever the fallout, we'll cover for you. Here. Anya produced a black handgun and handed it to Victor Stone. Victor stared dumbly at the weapon in his hand. His life and Riley's songs had been saved by Chloe. If she asked him to trade his life for another, he wouldn't hesitate. But he was worried about them. What about you two? Anya drew two sharp, specialized daggers from her belt, one in each hand. I'll use these. Oh, I don't need anything that complicated, Chloe said, her tone breezy. She then pulled a German-made Heckler and Koch MP5 submachine gun from behind her back. Something simple will do. Victor's jaw dropped. You call that simple, Miss Vance? So the strategy is precision strike when you're poor, overwhelming firepower when you're rich? What about friendly fire? All those people downstairs are Zara's family. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead. He swallowed hard. Miss Vance, maybe we should switch. What's that supposed to mean? You think I don't know how to use this? Victor's heart sank. A spray of bullets from that thing would be the end of everyone. Killing Leo Flynn was one thing, but massacring innocent people was another. The big man's silence was answer enough. Chloe rolled her eyes. Don't underestimate me. I was the runner-up in the European Women's Shooting Championship the year before last. Hiss. Victor drew a sharp breath. Appearances really were deceiving. Anya spoke up a moment later. Oh, right. I remember now. I think there were only 2 competitors in the European Women's Shooting Championship that year. Called out on the spot, Chloe's face flushed. Victor's eye twitched violently. The title of runner-up sounded impressive, but with only 2 people competing. That was a whole other story. Victor opened his mouth, about to try again to persuade Chloe to let him handle the MP5, when Anya suddenly looked up. Her voice was cool. He's here. Their attention snapped forward, and a wave of adrenaline sharpened their senses. Outside the Thorne family estate, a black luxury sedan pulled up to the gate. A young man, radiating an air of self-importance, stepped out, his hands full of shopping bags. To an unknowing observer, he might have looked like a relative visiting for the holidays. Finally, my turn to shine, Leo Flynn muttered, checking his reflection in the car's side mirror. He adjusted his impeccably tailored suit. A bona fide stud, in his own humble opinion. First impressions were everything when meeting the parents. Excuse me, are you Mr. Leo Flynn? A burly man in a black suit asked as he approached. Leo flashed what he imagined was a devilishly charming grin. The one and only. The head of the family has been waiting. Please, follow me. The man reached for the bags, but Leo waved him off. I appreciate the offer, but these are light. I can manage. The guard didn't press the issue and led the way. Leo followed, practically skipping with self-satisfaction. Soon, they entered the Thorne family's living room. Dozens of eyes turned in unison to fixate on him. For a split second, Leo felt a flicker of nervousness. But then he spotted Zara Thorne in the crowd, and the feeling vanished. She was stunning tonight, her skin like porcelain, dressed in her signature fiery red. Leo, my boy, come in. We were just talking about you, Marcus Thorne said, rising from his seat at the head of the room with a hearty laugh. Before Leo's arrival, Marcus had briefed the family on his background and accomplishments. They knew he was a man of some means. As he was their guest, most managed to conjure a polite smile. Leo returned the smile, feigning a look of honored surprise. Mr. Thorne, please sit. I thought I told you not to bring any expensive gifts, Marcus said, his brow furrowing slightly. Leo chuckled. Not at all, not at all. Just a few trinkets. Trinkets, my ass. He had spared no expense. You couldn't expect to win the girl without baiting the hook, after all. Of course, Leo Flynn never made a deal where he lost. In his mind, these gifts were merely on loan to the Thorne family, a temporary deposit. What was his would always be his. The thought was so ruthlessly transactional, it would have made a vulture weep. Marcus smiled and had someone take the gifts, then pulled Leo to his seat. You've been a stranger these past few days, son. You should neglect an old man like me. Leo was momentarily stunned. Wait, what? I didn't even get to describe what's in the bags. That was my chance to show off. Can't you at least let me finish my spiel before we sit down? If I don't get a brag, I'll explode. People think I brought them cheap junk. Haha, Mr. Thorne, I've just been so busy lately, Leo said smoothly. Too many things on my plate. But I promise, the moment I have free time, I'll come visit you. He then turned to the others. Hello, aunts and uncles. I'm Leo Flynn. Leo like the lion. And Flynn. Well, you know, in like Flynn. You could just call me Leo. He had to nail the first impression. His smile was engineered to be as harmless and charming as possible. It might have worked on the others, but just made Zara's stomach churn. Ha ha. So Leo, where are you from? What's the family business? What do you think of New York, son? Any big plans for the future here? After a few drinks, the floodgates opened. The Thorne family had a barrage of questions for Leo. This was about their precious Zara's future. After all, it was no laughing matter. The more detailed the questions, the better. Leo, it had to be said, looked the part tonight. He had successfully suppressed his usual aggressive aura, appearing perfectly harmless and easygoing. I'm from a town in the Midwest. My family's in the mining business. Small operation, you know, he answered with a practiced smile, responding to each question with perfect ambiguity. New York is fantastic. Beautiful scenery, fast-paced lifestyle, and the people I've met have been wonderful. As for the future, the plan is to grow the business here, make it bigger and better. He gave answers that sounded like answers, but said nothing at all. The mining company was a complete fabrication. If the Thorns decided to dig deeper, he'd just have Manny Marcos wire some cash and acquire a real one back home. It wasn't stealing from his subordinates, he reasoned, merely borrowing their funds to handle his personal affairs. He'd pay them back later. With whose money? The Van Cess had plenty. His refined speech and confident demeanor were working. The Thorne family seemed to like him more and more, especially Marcus. What about your parents, Leo? Zara's father asked. When can you bring them over for dinner? In that instant, Leo's movements ceased. The smile on his face froze. It all happened in a flash. Then, to the surprise of everyone, he took a deep breath. His voice was laced with 3 parts sorrow, 3 parts sincerity, and 4 parts painful memory. As far back as I can remember, I have no memory of my parents. I grew up in an orphanage. Everything I have today, I built with my own 2 hands. As he spoke, his eyes welled up with tears. He had his hand on his thigh, pinching it hard. Parents? What a joke. Those 2 brought me into this world and then abandoned me. They don't deserve the title. But this was the perfect opportunity to play the sympathy card. Human emotion was a universal language. This would surely win them over. A moment later, most of the Thorne family was stunned into silence. Zara's mother quickly apologized on her husband's behalf. Oh, Leo, we're so sorry. We didn't know. We never meant to pry. Leo managed a weak, pained smile, his eyes red from the pinching. He put on a brave face. It's okay. It's all in the past. The sight made their hearts ache for him even more. They could feel his pain. Zara's brow furrowed in disgust. Does this man have no shame? Where is all this sentiment when you were doing those disgusting, vile things? Her hatred for Leo reached a new peak. If she didn't already know what kind of monster he was, she might have fallen for his act just like the rest of her family. Leo, if you don't mind, Marcus Thorne said, his voice thick with sincerity, from now on, you can think of me as your grandfather. Zara's expression soured. Grandpa, don't you think you're moving a little too fast? She snapped. A flicker of triumph crossed Leo's eyes, but he quickly hid it. Mister, Thorne is right, Zara. Relationships take time. We can't rush these things. The more Leo seemed to side with Zara, the more her family was convinced he was a good man. It was infuriating. They started to see Zara as the one being unreasonable. What a fine young man Leo was. A perfect match for their Zara. Come on, Leo, drink up, one of Zara's cousins said, raising his glass. Leo grinned and lifted his own. Cheers. The dinner party was in full swing, the conversation flowing as freely as the wine. Leo had quite a bit to drink, and his guard was down. He was laughing and joking with the family, completely at ease. No one noticed Zara pull out her phone. She opened a chat window, her long, elegant fingers hovering over the keyboard. She typed a single message, get him. But her thumb hesitated over the send button. The room was filled with warmth and laughter. It wasn't just her family. There were children present, her young nieces and nephews. The Thorns may have been in the business of crime, but killing a man in front of children. Zara couldn't bring herself to do it. Just as she was wrestling with her conscience, a phone buzzed. It was Leo's, vibrating in his pocket. Excuse me, he apologized, pulling it out. He glanced at the caller ID, Manny Marcos, and immediately declined the call. What is that idiot thinking, calling me now? He fumed internally. I'm in the middle of charming my future in-laws. And he interrupts? Is he insane? Sorry about that, he said, smiling at the family. Now, where were we? Before he could finish, the phone buzzed again. This time, someone else spoke up first. Go on, Leo. If it's important, you should take it. That's right, another added. We're not that formal here. Leo smiled, apologized again, and finally answered the call, his voice dripping with annoyance. What is it? Manny's urgent voice crackled from the other end. Dragon King, get out of there. It's a setup, a trap. Someone wants to kill you. Leo's eyes widened in shock and confusion, but he recovered in a heartbeat. He kept his expression neutral, pretending nothing was wrong as he made some idle small talk before hanging up. He turned back to the table, forcing a laugh. Ha ha, just some business at the office. Now, let's get back to the party. Zara had been watching him during the call. She saw the flicker of alarm in his eyes, the subtle shift in his demeanor. It was impossible to miss, given that her entire focus was on him. As she wondered what was happening, Leo stood up, a sheepish grin on his face. Aunts, uncles, I think I've had a little too much to drink. I need to use a restroom. Of course. Andy, show your cousin Leo to the washroom. No one, not even Zara, suspected anything was amiss. Leo followed the young man, Andy, out of the room. Zara had been planning to wait for him to come out, her resolve now hardened. Wait a minute, she thought suddenly. Leo going to the restroom. This is the perfect opportunity. It would keep the children from seeing anything. A flimsy justification, perhaps, but better than nothing. Biting her lip, Zara made her decision. Her fingers flew across the screen, typing a new message and sending it to Chloe. Bang! Upstairs, the door to Zara's bedroom flew open, and 3 figures rushed out. The moment the door opened, Zara shot to her feet and shouted to them, "This way. Follow me." Moments before Leo's phone call with Manny Marcos. At the Marcos estate, Manny was enjoying a family dinner when an unknown number called him. He knew it wasn't a spam call. His provider filtered those out for high-profile clients. It had to be a business associate or a new contact referred by one. He answered. Hello. A woman's voice, cool and playful, came through the line. If you don't want a Dragon King to die, get him out of the Thorn House. Now, Manny's blood ran cold. Who is this? The woman chuckled. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that if you don't do what I say, you and your master will be permanently separated. Ha ha. Her laughter was joyous, almost wild. Before he could ask another question, she added, Don't bother calling this number back. I won't answer. I'll contact you when I want to. And one more thing. This conversation is between you and me. Understand? Otherwise, she purred, there won't be a next time. Click. The line went dead. Panic seized him. He immediately dialed Leo's number. The caller knew Leo's identity as the Dragon King, and they knew his personal number. This couldn't be a scam. It was better to be safe than sorry. This was the call that had interrupted the dinner party. This way. Follow me. Zara sprinted towards the restroom Leo had been heading for. Behind her, Anya vaulted over the grand staircase, railing in a single, fluid motion, landing silently and falling in step just behind Zara. Victor and Chloe were right behind them. The scene plunged the Thorn family into chaos. What the hell is happening? Mommy, are Annie Zara's friend holding toy guns? They look like mine. Zara, what do you think you're doing? Zara's father roared, his face turning purple with rage as he shot to his feet. By then, Zara, Anya, and the others had reached the closed bathroom door. Bang! 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 You bastard, Leo! Get out here! Zara screamed, hammering on the door like a madwoman. Thump! A muffled crash came from inside, followed by a meek voice. Sis, it's me. Andy. Zara froze. Behind her, Anya, Chloe, and Victor came to a halt. Get out here and tell me what's going on. Just a sec, the weak voice replied from within. A terrible feeling washed over Zara. Her brow furrowed. Hurry up. Okay, I'm coming. The door creaked open, and a pathetic-looking Andy Thorn emerged. A dark, wet patch had spread across the front of his pants. It didn't take a genius to figure out he'd wet himself. His face was a mask of misery. Where's Leo? Zara demanded. Leo said he was going outside for a smoke, Andy stammered. His eyes then fell on the figures behind Zara. Holy, that's a big. Wait, no. Holy, that's a black. What the hell is happening? Why are they holding guns? His heart hammered against his ribs. He swallowed hard. Was this some kind of lover's quarrel gone nuclear? Damn it. Zara's face was a storm cloud. Hearing this, Anya had already bolted for the main entrance. Victor and Chloe didn't hesitate, sprinting after her. The rest of the family had caught up. Zara's father's voice trembled with fury. Zara Thorn, what have you done? A perfectly good family gathering had devolved into this nightmare. What parent wouldn't be furious? He blocked her path. I'm doing what I know is right. Dad, don't try to stop me. Slap. The sound echoed through the hall. Her father's hand cracked across her face with the full force of his anger. What is right? He bellowed, spittle flying from his mouth. You tell me. You bring a boy home, your supposed boyfriend. We welcome him. We treat him like family. And now you tell us you lured him here to kill him? Is this your idea of what's right? A string of furious questions followed. Zara's other cheek was now crimson, and a trickle of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. Her voice was still defiant. Yes, this is what I have to do. She pushed past him. This time, he didn't stop her. The rest of the family stood frozen, utterly dumbfounded. What was going on? Their fierce, independent niece had gone completely insane. Inviting a man over for dinner just to murder him? It was surreal. Inside a black sedan speeding away from the Thorne estate, Leo Flynn was having a meltdown. I knew something was wrong. I felt it when I took out that Petrocelli clown. He raved, clutching his head in the back seat. Why would the Thornes do this to me? I bent over backwards for them, smiled until my face hurt. What did I do to deserve this? Was this their idea, or is some other snake pulling the strings? He replayed the dinner in his mind. He couldn't recall a single moment where anyone had seemed hostile. If they were hiding it, then every last one of them was a master actor, a chilling thought. The call had come from Manny. For now, he had to trust him. Anyone who tries to hurt me will burn in the deepest pits of hell. Meanwhile, in a darkened room at the Hayes estate, Serafina Hayes sat curled in a chair, dressed in a sheer, black lace nightgown. The curves of her body were silhouetted against the faint light. On the table beside her sat a wine glass and several empty bottles. "You call me stupid, didn't you, Asher?" she whispered to the empty room. "You look down on me. Do you know what true, soul-crushing agony feels like?" The words were chilling, but the expression on her face was a twisted, almost ecstatic mask. She looked broken. She raised the glass, draining the last of the red wine. A giggle escaped her lips, teetering on the edge of madness. "You will," she cooed. "You'll know that pain soon enough. Leo can't die yet. I'm going to tie him up, and then I'm going to tie you up, and I'll make you watch, Asher. You'll watch with your own eyes as Leo dies right in front of you. I'm going to extinguish every last reason you have to live in this world. I'll make you feel a pain that starts in the deepest part of your soul." She paused, a sickly sweet smile gracing her beautiful face. "Won't that be fun? A perfect ending for you, because I believe our pain is connected. We're the same, you and I, and if we're not," her voice dropped to a sinister whisper, "I'll make you the same." Back at the Thorne estate, Chloe's brow was furrowed in disbelief. He actually got away. She couldn't accept it. The plan was a surprise attack, designed to catch Leo completely off guard. Anyone else would have been a sitting duck. But Leo, how'd he know? Zara's expression was just as dark. The red handprint still stood out starkly on her cheek. It must have been that phone call. The call. Zara nodded, explaining her theory. During dinner, he got a call and then immediately left for the restroom. Right after that, I messaged you and you saw the rest. Victor Stone thought for a moment, his voice a low rumble. Could there be a mole? It made no sense. The bait was taken. The estate's security cameras were being monitored by the Gao siblings. And the call came at the most suspiciously perfect moment. Someone had to have tipped him off. Impossible. Chloe shot back instantly. The only people who knew were the other heroines. Every single one of them, to varying degrees, cared about Asher. Even if they didn't, none of them would ever betray him. On that point, Chloe would bet her life. "We have to go back for now," Anya said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We'll have to rethink our next move." The element of surprise was gone. Killing Leo now would be exponentially harder. They all knew it. It was then that Chloe noticed the mark on Zara's face. "Zara, what happened to your cheek?" she cried, her voice filled with concern. Zara turned away slightly, forcing a weak smile. "It's nothing." The others saw it too. Chloe thought for a moment and quickly put the pieces together. Trying to kill someone in front of your family. That was a heavy burden. If she had to shoot Leo in front of her own parents, Lawrence and Eleanor, she knew she would hesitate. She could kill Leo without blinking, but doing it in front of them. She'd worry they wouldn't be able to sleep at night, that they'd see their daughter as a murderer. "I'm sorry," Chloe said softly, then added, "Zara, come stay with us for a while." Her tone was deadly serious. Zara nodded, then shook her head. "Thank you, but I have other places I can go." Chloe took her hand. "Please, Zara, come to the Vance house. It'll be easier for us to plan our next move against Leo together." Chloe had seen everything Zara had sacrificed tonight. Failure was always a possibility. She never expected to kill Leo on the first try. The past had taught her he was hard to kill. But that was beside the point. Zara had proven herself. She was one of them now. In Chloe's mind, she had earned the title of sister-in-law. Staying at the Vance house means seeing Asher, Zara thought. She wanted to say yes, but then she smiled sadly and refused again. What was the point? Asher was with Scarlett now. What would she be doing there? Trying to break up a happy marriage? She couldn't bring herself to do that. But Chloe saw the hesitation. Having lived a whole life before, she knew how to read each of the heroines like a book. If she couldn't win them over this time around, she might as well delete her account and start over. She pressed on, wearing Zara down with gentle persistence until, finally, she reluctantly agreed. Victor Stone played the part of both bodyguard and chauffeur, safely delivering the three women to the Vance estate before driving off. Chloe, as their de facto leader, had already considered all the risks. The connection between Victor and Riley Song was protected by the Gao siblings. Unless one of them confessed, no one would ever find out. As for retaining top talent like Victor, the Vance family method was simple and brutally effective. Money, money, and more money. A luxury apartment, a car worth no less than $100,000, and a salary and bonus package that spoke for itself. The Vance estate was massive. Finding a spare room was no problem. Zara, my clothes probably won't fit you, Chloe said, bustling around the guest room. You can borrow something of Anya's for tonight, or I can have some things sent over. This nightgown should fit, though. It's new about Anya's size. The villa was, of course, spotless. A cleaning crew came at regular intervals, making dust a rarer sight than a unicorn. Zara sat on the edge of the bed, her hands fidgeting in her lap, her heart racing. The assassination attempt had failed, but that was behind her now. What mattered was that she was here, in the Vance house for the first time, about to live under the same roof as Asher. How could she not be a nervous wreck? Are you sure your parents won't mind me staying here? Chloe paused what she was doing and smiled patiently. Zara, I've told you a dozen times, my parents love it when I have friends over. Besides, you're not just some stranger. You've met them before. She patted Zara's shoulder reassuringly. Relax. Make yourself at home. It's just one extra plate at the dinner table. Hearing this, Zara could only offer a weak smile. Lawrence and Eleanor were one thing, but what about Scarlett Jo? Would she see her as a threat? As these thoughts swirled in her head, she heard the sound of a car pulling up downstairs. The door to her room was open, so the noise was clear. Oh, looks like Mom and Dad are home, Chloe said, tilting her head. Zara's heart, which had just begun to calm, started pounding again. What do I do? She stammered. Chloe laughed. If you're still worried, then come downstairs with me and say hello. Zara knew she was right. It would be rude not to greet her hosts. A few moments later, the two women descended the stairs. Lawrence and Eleanor Vance were chatting in the living room when they saw their daughter coming down with another young woman. They froze for a second. They knew this girl. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Vance. Oh, hello, dear. Zara? It's Zara Thorne, isn't it? Eleanor said, her eyes wide. Zara nodded shyly. Chloe quickly explained, Mom, Dad, Zara is going to be staying with us for a while. Welcome, welcome. Stay as long as you like. Eleanor beamed, walking over to Zara. Look at you, all grown up. Come here, let me get a good look at you. Please, make our home your home. She pulled Zara into a warm, natural hug, completely devoid of any pretense. Zara's body went rigid for a second, then relaxed into the embrace. In that moment, her heart felt like it was melting. She had dreamed of this for so long. Not just a hug, but the idea of Eleanor Vance becoming her mother-in-law, of her becoming their daughter-in-law. But now that was just a fantasy. For the next while, Eleanor chatted animatedly with Zara, who gradually went from anxious to at ease. She was surprised at how easy it was to talk to her. Here, she didn't have to be anyone but herself. Lawrence also welcomed her before tactfully heading upstairs, leaving the women to talk. Not long after, another car pulled into the driveway. Asher and Scarlett were home. Asher walked in, expecting a normal evening, and then he saw her. A familiar face. At first, he thought he was seeing things. He almost turned around to walk back out. Scarlett grabbed his arm, amused. What are you doing? Ahem. Just wondering if I left something in the car, he mumbled. Across the room, Eleanor saw her son and waved him over. What's wrong with you, dear? You don't recognize your own home? Come here. Asher nodded and walked over, looking like a deer in headlights. What the hell is going on? Why is my ex-girlfriend in my house? Oh, right, that was like 1,000,000 years ago. I remember, but she probably doesn't. Don't panic. Don't be afraid. If the crooked-mouthed Dragon King sent her, just roll with it. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Eleanor opened her mouth to make introductions, but Scarlett, now her official daughter-in-law, beat her to it. She walked right up to Zara and embraced her like a long-lost best friend. Eleanor blinked. You two know each other? Scarlett laughed. Mom, of course we do. It dawned on Eleanor. They were all part of New York's 4 great families. It would be stranger if they didn't know each other. Blaming her fatigue, she chatted for a few more minutes before heading upstairs herself. That left Asher, Chloe, Scarlett, and Zara in the living room. 1 man, 3 women. They all just stared at each other. Asher was so awkward he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Surrounded by heroines. Well, except for Scarlett, who was on his side now. This was a minefield. What are you looking at? You want some alone time with your ex? Scarlett teased, her tone light and free of malice. Asher snapped back to reality, looking at her. So I should go? Scarlett nodded. Go on, go on. Go upstairs and wait for me. Steeling himself, Asher walked towards the stairs, his outward calm a stark contrast to the screaming chaos in his head. The moment he was gone, the three women burst into laughter. After the cheerful moment passed, Scarlett's expression turned serious. "Were any of you hurt tonight?" she asked. She didn't ask about the outcome, but went straight to the heart of the matter. People first. If Zara and the others had been injured, it would have been a major headache. "No one was hurt," Zara said, shaking her head. Her voice was laced with guilt. "But I'm sorry. I let Leo get away. If I hadn't hesitated, if I'd sent the signal to Chloe sooner." She trailed off, her emotions getting the better of her. She buried her face in her hands, frustrated. He might be a dead man right now. Scarlett, momentarily surprised, smiled and wrapped an arm around her, pulling her into a big hug. "Don't blame yourself. If we fail once, we just try again. We'll get our chance." Of course, Scarlett knew that a failed attempt would make Leo exponentially harder to kill. Chloe chimed in with her own words of comfort. "It's a war of attrition, Zara. We've fought those before, remember?" Zara was confused. First, Scarlett was hugging her with an intimacy that felt beyond just putting on a show for Asher's mother. It was the kind of thing you did with a sister. And second, Chloe's comment about a war of attrition. "We've fought those before." "Chloe, what do you mean? We've done it before?" The question startled Chloe. Realizing her slip-up, she quickly improvised. "I mean, we've persevered on difficult tasks before. Taking down Leo is just another one of those tasks." The explanation left Zara and Scarlett blinking. "Anyway, it's getting late," Chloe added quickly. "We're all exhausted after today. Whatever we need to discuss can wait until morning, right, sis?" Scarlett nodded in agreement. "She's right, it's late. You girls should get some rest. By the way, Zara, do you have a nightgown and clothes for tomorrow?" "No, I didn't have time to grab anything. I have some in my room. You can wear mine tonight." "Oh no, I couldn't. But thank you for the offer. Don't be silly, we're sisters. In fact, if you want, you can sleep in the master bedroom." "Huh, sleep in your room?" "That's right. Is there a problem?" "No, I mean yes. If I sleep there, where will you go?" "Me? I could take your room. Or I could just sleep with Chloe." Scarlett's playful suggestion left both Chloe and Zara completely floored. Chloe's mouth fell open in utter shock. This she-devil is insane. She has a husband, and she's really willing to share. Both of them, of course, refused. Chloe protested vehemently. Sleep with the she-devil? Had she lost her mind? She'd rather sleep with a dog. Not in this lifetime. As for Zara, Scarlett's words made her face turn beet red. She had the desire, but not the nerve. Not here, in the Vance house, with Asher's parents right upstairs. It was too much, too fast, and she immediately backed down. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, "You said the person who called to warn you was a woman." "That's right, Dragon King," Manny Marcos said, holding nothing back. As the #1 fan of the Dragon King, he would never hide anything from him. Leo's brow furrowed in thought. "Call that woman back," he said, his voice low and dangerous. If she knew enough to foil the Thorne family's plot, she must have some connection to them. She chose to help me, which means she wants something from me. It would be best to form an alliance. Manny gave a wry smile. "I'm afraid that's not possible, sir. She said the phone would only connect when she wants to contact me." The unknown was always the most terrifying. People crave certainty and despise ambiguity. Leo poured himself another glass of whiskey and downed it in one go. Seeing his boss's dark mood, Manny ventured, "Sir, should I have someone look into her?" Leo shook his head. "If she had the guts to call you, she's already covered her tracks. But this isn't all bad news. Her actions prove she's on our side for now. Or at the very least, our Dragon's Den has something she wants." Manny nodded furiously. The Dragon King is truly the Dragon King. His charisma was so powerful that even at the brink of death, a mysterious woman would appear to save him. That alone was enough to make Manny's admiration soar. After another drink, Leo's eyes turned to ice. The Thorne family has gone too far. They're asking for death. If it weren't for that mysterious woman's call, today would have been my last day on Earth. If I'm not going to have a good time, then neither are they. Everything they cherish, their family, their friends, I'll burn it all to the ground. He leaned forward, his voice a venomous hiss. "Get a message to the Praetorian Guard. Tell them the time has come to earn their keep. I want 15 of our best equipped men, our most loyal soldiers, to launch a surprise attack on the Thorne estate tonight. I want the world to know that anyone who tries to kill Leo Flynn had better be prepared for the consequences. They'd better ask themselves if they can handle my revenge." The Praetorian Guard was the secret force Leo had been building on American soil. Money wasn't enough. You needed muscle. Otherwise, you end up in situations like tonight, with your head on the chopping block. The members were recruited from the dregs of society, orphans with no ties, desperate men who would do anything for money, and those with sick relatives and crushing medical debt. Of course, the Praetorian Guard, despite its noble name, engaged in the filthiest of trades: contract killing, loan sharking, even drug trafficking. Leo turned a blind eye to the details. He left that to his lieutenants. All he needed was a blade he could point at anyone, at any time. We will bring chaos to the Thorne family. Manny's eyes were bloodshot. He had almost lost his big brother tonight. An eye for an eye. Whoever had unleashed this pain would now have it returned 100-fold. Zara Thorne couldn't sleep that night. No one called, no one texted. The room was silent, but her mind was racing. She tossed and turned until 6 in the morning before finally drifting into an uneasy slumber. The Thorne family had a much rougher night. A group of heavily armed, fearless men launched a sudden, ferocious attack on the estate. It was a holiday, and the Thornes never expected an enemy to strike on such a day. The family's reputation alone was usually enough to deter any would-be aggressors. But not this time. Despite the surprise, the Thorne family's casualties were double that of the attackers. As a major crime family, they had plenty of muscle on payroll, and it was these hired hands who paid the ultimate price. A few extended family members were injured, but miraculously, no one in the direct line was killed. Gunfights were not unheard of in their world, but the scale of this attack was massive. After dealing with the intruders from the Praetorian Guard, the family had to expend enormous resources to clean up the scene and suppress the news. No one in the Thorne family slept a wink. Around 7 in the morning, Chloe was jolted awake by a phone call. "Chloe, we have a problem." It was Raina Gao, and she didn't waste time with pleasantries. The words instantly cleared the fog of sleep from Chloe's mind. "Chloe, we have a problem." It was Raina Gao, and she didn't waste time with pleasantries. "What happened?" "I just got the news and called you immediately. There was a massive firefight at the Thorne estate last night. I pulled the surveillance footage. I'm estimating at least 20 casualties." "It was that rabid dog," Chloe snarled, her eyes burning with a murderous light. Compared to the catastrophic losses of her past life, a few dozen casualties was just the beginning. Raina added, "Right, videos started leaking online, but I've already deleted them. Kevin and I deployed a worm that specifically targets anyone posting them. The moment someone tries to upload a related video, the worm infects their device and deletes everything, including the original file. I'll do whatever I can to contain this." The Thornes were an old-school crime family. In the age of social media, any spark could become an inferno. A major gun battle like this could easily spiral into a public relations disaster that would be crippling for them. Of course, while the internet grants every keyboard warrior the power of a god, above them are the code lords, the true emperors of the net who control the source code. And Raina Gao was an empress. In the real world, she might be a timid, socially awkward geek. But in the digital realm, she could single-handedly hold back an army of millions. The gap in skill was just that vast. Chloe's nose tingled. "On behalf of Zara and the Thorne family, thank you, Raina. This is my fault." Raina's tone sharpened. "What are you talking about? Thank me? We're family. I'm your sister. And how is this your fault? Even if you hadn't made a move, that bastard Leo would have done something eventually. You have nothing to apologize for." Hearing her friend's passionate defense, Chloe's eyes refocused, blazing with renewed fury. "Raina, Zara's staying with me right now. Don't post anything about this in the group chat. I don't want her to find out this way. I'll tell her myself later. For now, I need you to keep deleting the videos and minimize the fallout." "You can rest easy," Raina said, her confidence returning. "Your big sister might not be good for much else, but this is my specialty." After a few more words, Chloe hung up. She needed to think. Since her return, since learning she could hear Asher's thoughts like the other heroines, she had relaxed. The burden on her shoulders was lighter, shared among them. Her plan had been twofold: weaken the dragon's den abroad and cut off the head of the snake by killing Leo. Both steps were sound. The problem was she had completely underestimated Leo's hidden forces on American soil. "You want a war? You'll get one," Chloe muttered, grabbing a pen and paper. She began to write down the names of Leo's domestic factions from her past life, along with any key figures she could remember. The names came easily, but the headquarters locations were a blur. In the original timeline, Leo had swallowed the Vance Corporation whole. With that influx of cash, he had aggressively expanded his domestic operations. New factions sprang up everywhere. He didn't care about loyalty. With enough money, he could buy an endless supply of cannon fodder, which made him even harder to kill. As time wore on, Chloe had filled an entire page with crossed-out and revised names, finally settling on a definitive list. She stared at the names, whispering them aloud. "Okay, these are the main ones. The Viper's Nest, the Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians, the Phoenix Syndicate, and the Savage Crew. Of these 5, she only had a vague, fuzzy memory of one group's location, the one she had personally helped annihilate. The other 4 had been handled by the other heroines. Smack! She slammed the paper down on the desk in frustration. Arg, why didn't I write down the locations in my past life? But self-recrimination was useless. Knock, knock, knock. A gentle rap on the door was followed by Eleanor Vance's chiding voice. Chloe, what's with all the wailing so early in the morning? We have a guest. Have some consideration. Now, get up, brush your teeth, and get ready for breakfast. No more screaming, you hear me? Chloe, what's with all the wailing so early in the morning? We have a guest. Have some consideration. Now, get up, brush your teeth, and get ready for breakfast. No more screaming, you hear me? Chloe froze, her face flushing with embarrassment. She had truly lost control for a moment. For now, she'd have to take it one step at a time. As for how to dismantle Leo's empire, she already had an answer. She could leak the locations to rival organizations, let the dogs fight amongst themselves. Or she could use the system. After all, she had people on the inside. Zara came down for breakfast with dark circles under her eyes, like a giant panda. This was a friend's house, not her own, so basic etiquette was a must. She had tried to conceal the sleeplessness with foundation, but it could only do so much. A person's energy can't be faked. Zara, dear, you didn't sleep well, did you? Eleanor asked with concern. Was it the bed or something else? Zara blushed slightly, forcing some energy into her voice. No, it's not that. It just takes me a day or 2 to get used to a new place. Zara, dear, you didn't sleep well, did you? Eleanor asked with concern. Was it the bed or something else? No, it's not that. It just takes me a day or 2 to get used to a new place. Eleanor nodded. Well, after you eat, you should go get some rest. If you have anything to do today, put it off. You need your sleep to feel your best. Your mom's right, Scarlett added with a sincere smile. You need to take care of yourself. Well, after you eat, you should go get some rest. If you have anything to do today, put it off. You need your sleep to feel your best. Your mom's right, Scarlett added with a sincere smile. You need to take care of yourself. The 3 women chatted away, with Chloe occasionally chiming in with a cheerful comment. Inside, however, Chloe was suffering. She'd made one move on Leo, and he'd immediately retaliated against their allies. Thankfully, Raina had sent another message confirming that Zara's immediate family was safe. That was a small relief. The best way to make Leo truly panic was to give him a taste of his own medicine. Chloe didn't just want to retaliate. She wanted to sever his limbs, burn his empire to the ground, and scatter the ashes. But the problem remained. Location, location, location. Suddenly, Chloe's gaze was drawn to one person at the table. A person who was trying his absolute best to be invisible, to fade into the background. It wasn't working. Asher Vance, in full foodie mode, was devouring his breakfast, his eyes fixed on his plate, his ears supposedly closed to the world. He was doing an admirable impression of a background character, but his inner monologue was broadcasting loud and clear. Oh my God, my ex-girlfriend, my current wife, and my mom are all at the breakfast table, chatting and laughing like they're one big happy family. I couldn't have imagined this scene in my wildest dreams. What is this bizarre, heartwarming spectacle? You guys are freaking me out. Man, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have chased so many girls. I'd just be a happy, unambitious slacker content to lie flat. Ping. System. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus $50,000. While Asher was lost in his own world, Chloe's attention was now fully on her brother. Her eyes lit up. She felt the folded piece of paper in her pocket, the one with Leo's factions written on it. My brother is obsessed with the plot, she thought. He must know the layout of Leo's forces, all his trump cards. After all, he still thinks he's playing a part. The more she thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. Her sister-in-law had already managed to bluff her way into a multi-billion-dollar oil deal using his thoughts. There was no reason Chloe couldn't do the same. It was all just a matter of who was doing the bluffing. The problem was, if she asked him about the factions directly, he'd get suspicious. Even hinting at it would be risky. She needed the right person, in the right situation, to bring it up naturally. An idea sparked in her mind. 2 faces appeared before her. Kate and Mac. One was a cop, the other was military. With the 2 of them working together, if they couldn't rip off both of Leo's arms, Chloe would stand on her head and wash her hair. Plan set. She finished breakfast. After some gentle coaxing, Chloe convinced Zara to go back to bed for a nap. She hadn't told Zara about the attack on her family, but she had informed Anya, asking her to stick close to Asher for the time being. Even with his martial arts skills, There was no telling what that mad dog Leo might try next. With everything arranged, Chloe left the house and went to a nearby cafe, having already called Catherine Young and Mackenzie Mac Prescott to meet her. In a private booth, Kate was in her police uniform, while Mac was in casual clothes. They both looked at Chloe, confused. "Chloe, can you please tell us what's so important?" Kate asked, clearly anxious. "I'm supposed to be on patrol." Mac nodded in agreement. She was trying to enjoy the last few days of her vacation in New York before heading back to D.C. "Chloe, can you please tell us what's so important?" Chloe didn't beat around the bush. She rattled off the names of Leo's factions. The Viper's Nest, the Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians, the Phoenix Syndicate, and the Savage Crew. The Viper's Nest, the Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians, the Phoenix Syndicate, and the Savage Crew. At first, the two women looked baffled. Then, a look of dawning horror crossed their faces. Smack! They both slapped the table in unison, shooting to their feet. "Chloe, where did you hear those names?" they demanded, their voices a mixture of shock and urgency. "Chloe, where did you hear those names?" they demanded, their voices a mixture of shock and urgency. Seeing their reaction, Chloe felt a slow smile spread across her face. As officials, they clearly knew more than she did. She launched into the story she had prepared beforehand. "I overheard it from my brother's thoughts. You know how he is. He doesn't see us as outsiders, so he just lets every secret spill out in his head. He's a great guy, but he's just too honest. I overheard it from my brother's thoughts. You know how he is. He doesn't see us as outsiders, so he just lets every secret spill out in his head. He's a great guy, but he's just too honest." What does she mean he doesn't see us as outsiders? They both thought. He has no idea we can hear him. If he knew, he'd probably have a complete mental breakdown and cry himself to sleep in a bathroom stall. "Chloe, forget that for a second. This is incredibly important," Kate said, leaning forward. "If you know the names, you must know their locations, right? To be honest, these are some of the most vicious gangs out there. They've done unspeakable things. Just give us the addresses, and I'll contact headquarters. We can take them all down in one fell swoop." "Chloe, forget that for a second. This is incredibly important," Kate said, leaning forward. "If you know the names, you must know their locations, right? To be honest, these are some of the most vicious gangs out there. They've done unspeakable things. Just give us the addresses, and I'll contact headquarters. We could take them all down in one fell swoop." Mac's expression was grim. "The military has been monitoring these groups for a while now, too. If necessary, I can talk to my grandfather and get you reinforcements." Even though she lived in D.C., Mac had heard of one or two of the 5 factions, and none of it was good. The two were practically vibrating with righteous fury. Chloe knew she had them. Now, she just needed to add a little more fuel to the fire. "The military has been monitoring these groups for a while now, too. If necessary, I can talk to my grandfather and get you reinforcements." "Kate, Mac, there's one more thing you need to know. The man behind all 5 of these organizations, the one pulling all the strings, is Leo Flynn." Silence. A dead, profound silence. Then the two women erupted. "It's him again. I knew he was no good. I can't believe it. He looks so clean-cut, but he's a monster. My cousin doesn't deserve to be killed by scum like that. Leo isn't worthy. It's him again. I knew he was no good. I can't believe it. He looks so clean-cut, but he's a monster. My cousin doesn't deserve to be killed by scum like that. Leo isn't worthy." Their reactions were even more intense now. Kate, the righteous cop, had a fire in her eyes. Chloe smiled. It was working perfectly. Leo Flynn was finished, and he had no one to blame but himself. Both women stared at Chloe, their eyes blazing with intensity, determined to get an answer. "'Cause there's no time to waste. Tell us, where are the headquarters located?" Mac pressed. "That's right. I'll go back and tell my captain. We'll get the commissioner on board immediately. Those bastards are going down," Kate declared. Chloe gave him a wry smile and spread her hands helplessly. "I don't know the exact locations." "Mac! Kate!" After all that build-up, she was telling them she didn't know? What was the point of knowing the names? This was like taking off your pants to fart. A completely useless extra step. Chloe, guessing what they were thinking, quickly added, "I may not know, but someone else does." "Who?" they asked in unison. Chloe took a sip of her coffee, set the cup down, and said, "My brother, Asher." They should have known. Kate stood up abruptly, ready to march out the door and head straight for Asher. Chloe quickly grabbed her friend's arm. "Where are you going?" "Isn't it obvious, Chloe? I'm going to find Asher and get the locations from him." No, you can't." Chloe shook her head like a metronome, refusing to let go. Kate was baffled. Chloe got the information from Asher, but didn't get the most crucial part. Now Kate, was going to ask him, and Chloe was stopping her? What was she thinking? Why not? Kate asked, her brow furrowing. Chloe explained with a wry smile. It's not that I don't want you to ask him, but you can't just storm over there in a frenzy. That's the wrong approach. Kate, just listen to me for a second. If we ask my brother these questions directly, we'll blow our cover, won't we? Like I said, you have to be subtle about it. Kate looked intrigued. How do we do that? Great question, Chloe said, leaning in like a master strategist. I'll teach you. In a little while, you and my cousin will find an excuse to invite my brother out. Mac, you should be the one to do it. Just say you want to get afternoon tea or something. Or invite him to dinner. Then, during the meal, you start talking about those 5 factions. Remember, not too loud, not too quiet, just loud enough for my brother to overhear. Once he hears it, the rest is easy, because you can both hear his thoughts. After that, you don't need me to tell you what to do. You improvise. You anticipate his reactions. If he starts getting anxious or uncomfortable in his thoughts, you change the subject. Once he calms down, you bring it up again. It's a gradual process. You have to be gentle. Don't just jump straight to the main event. If you want a deep conversation, you have to take your time. The 2 women were stunned. Holy crap, they thought. They never would have imagined such a tactic. This was a whole new level of spycraft. It wasn't their fault. Mac was new to this whole mind-reading thing, so of course she wouldn't know. And Kate, while she'd been aware of it for longer, usually felt so flustered around Asher that she'd buried herself and worked to avoid thinking about it. She'd never considered how to properly weaponize his inner monologue. A moment later, they both started clapping softly, giving their teacher a thumbs up. Chloe, you're a genius. I've learned so much today. When I get a commendation for this, I'm treating you to a massive dinner. Chloe waved a hand dismissively, as if it were all basic knowledge, and urged them to put the plan into action. The invitation, of course, had to come from Mac. It was more natural. After all, Asher was her cousin. Even without a blood relation, a cousin is a cousin. When you need a favor, you call your cousin. And so, under Chloe's tactical guidance, Mac called Asher and put the phone on speaker for the other 2 to hear. After a few rings, he picked up. Hey, cuz. What's up? Chloe waved her hand, giving Mac an encouraging look. It's showtime. Mac held the phone and smiled. What's up is that I've been in New York for ages, and you haven't even taken me out to dinner. I'll let it slide that you were busy getting married and being all lovey-dovey with your new wife, but you should have some time for your favorite cousin now, right? Of course. What do you want for lunch? Anywhere you want to go after? I've already picked out the perfect restaurant. Oh, okay. Just send me the address. You got it. After a bit more small talk, Mac hung up. Her heart was pounding. It felt like old times, but in reverse. It had always been Asher inviting her out. She was usually the passive one, which was completely out of character for her usual bold personality. But when it came to matters of the heart, she always found herself tongue-tied. This was the first time she had ever taken the initiative, and to her surprise, it wasn't that hard at all. Now it's all up to you too, Chloe said, her voice full of encouragement. They both nodded grimly. Evil will finally face justice. Don't worry, Chloe. We won't let you down. Busy. Mac's phone started ringing again. The 3 women stared at it, confused. It was Asher. Mac didn't hesitate to answer, putting it back on speaker. Cuz? Why are you calling again? Chloe and Kate were just as puzzled. Asher's slightly sheepish voice came through the line. Ahem. Sorry about this, but I'm gonna have to bring my bodyguard with me to lunch. Oh, you mean that woman, Anya Kuznetsov, right? Yeah. No problem. I might be bringing a new friend I just met to... Even better, bring whoever you want. Your cousin's got money. You can't eat me out of house and home. You 2 know each other. What was that? Your voice got quiet, cuz. Can you repeat that? Nothing. And since you're paying, I'm going to order everything on the menu. Ha, I like your style. But I'm telling you now, even if you eat until you burst, you won't bankrupt me. Just don't come crying to me when your stomach hurts. As if. You underestimate me, cuz. At a high-end restaurant in Manhattan, Asher arrived with his ever-present shadow and made his way to the private dining room. When he walked in, he stopped short. The new friend Mac had mentioned was someone he knew very well. Not only knew, but had a history with. Okay, it was childhood history, but still. Kate Young had never been his girlfriend, but she had been one of his favorite people to tease, a little pigtail-wearing girl who used to follow him around everywhere. Cuz you finally made it. I'm ordering now, Max said cheerfully. She glanced at Anya, who stood behind Asher, then looked away. This bold cousin of his was great, but sometimes her personality was a bit much. Asher's mouth twitched. Don't just ignore Kate. Come on, Mac, you're supposed to do the whole introduction thing, at least pretend for my sake. Geez, do I have to remind you of everything? I swear. So, cuz when did you 2 meet? Asher asked, feigning ignorance. The righteous cop and the daughter of a military powerhouse becoming best friends? It was a classic trope, a standard pairing the author would create to help the protagonist. It was like the law of attraction for fictional characters. He'd seen it in the last life, so it didn't surprise him. Mac and Kate both froze. They were starting to understand why Chloe had told them to improvise and why she'd seemed so calm about it. This mind-reading ability was a serious cheat code. Asher thought he was one step ahead of them, but they could hear his thoughts, putting them 2 steps ahead of his one. It was a dizzying loop of predictions. We met at your wedding. Got a problem with that? Kate said with a haughty sniff, perfectly in character. Asher's eyes crinkled. Yes, that was the Kate he remembered. A smile touched his lips, and his eyes filled with a strange sense of relief. Kate is still Kate. She's one of the few heroines whose personality hasn't gone completely off the rails. A breath of fresh air, truly. Ping. System. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus $23. 333, foot no problem at all, Asher replied, suppressing his inner joy. Kate rolled her eyes. A vein throbbed on her forehead. What does he mean I'm still me? What does he mean a breath of fresh air? I ought to break something of his, make sure he can never take care of himself again, see how he likes that. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the mission. She needed information from him. She could afford to be magnanimous, just this once. What do you want to eat, cuz? Mac asked, trying not to laugh as she scrolled through the digital menu. Asher wasn't a picky eater. As long as it wasn't something bizarre or disgusting, he was fine. You can just order for me. Mac grinned a wide, tomboyish smile. All right, don't mind if I do. She wasn't about to let her cousin go hungry. After she placed the order, Asher intended to catch up with Mac. She was a heroine, yes, but she was still his cousin. A little chat couldn't hurt. He opened his mouth to speak, and then realized he was completely superfluous. Mac and Kate were already deep in a lively conversation, laughing and joking. He couldn't get a word in edgewise. He and Anya had become part of the wallpaper. The Dragon Queen was as silent as a statue, and Asher was one step away from committing murder in his dreams. Even if he could find a common topic, what was he going to say to Anya? Kate and Mac exchanged a look. It was time to get to the main event. So, Kate, I heard you guys are cracking down on a big criminal network. Any progress you can share? Mac asked casually. Oh yeah, Mac, these guys are the worst of the worst, pure scum. They're into all sorts of nasty business. The group is called the Praetorians, I think. Ever heard of them? The Praetorians? A bunch of degenerates with a name like that? Can't say I have. But I did hear my grandfather mention that some of his friends are trying to take down a group called the Savage Crew, also here in New York. What? Things have gotten that bad here? How did these 2 scumbag organizations pop up without anyone noticing? It's not just 2. At dinner last night, I heard my grandfather muttering about the Phoenix Syndicate, the Viper's Nest, and the Sunstone Cartel, too. The 2 went back and forth, their expressions and gestures perfectly calibrated. It might not have been Oscar-worthy, but it was more than enough to fool an unsuspecting bystander. Women are natural performers, after all. Asher had been scrolling through TikTok on his phone to pass the time, but their conversation, pitched at just the right volume, cut through his distraction. In that moment, his brain short-circuited. He was completely and utterly lost. What the hell is going on? How is it possible that you 2 know the names of these factions at this point in the story? Am I hallucinating? It must be a hallucination. Are you crazy? You're going to dismantle his entire operation. Those are the foundations of your future husband's power. Don't destroy them. If you wipe out these groups, the crooked-mouthed Dragon King will be crying in a bathroom stall for weeks. It's like pulling a dragon's teeth. Of course it would hurt. Phew, at least they only know the names and not the addresses. That was a close call. I can't let them destroy the key forces that are supposed to be a challenge for my Vance Corporation. Oh, so you're listening, cuz? Max said, a sly grin spreading across her face. Well, since you're paying attention, you must have heard a thing or 2, living in New York for so long. The Viper's Nest, the Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians, the Phoenix Syndicate, the Savage Crew. Do you know where their headquarters are? And if you don't, maybe you could ask around for us. Silence. A strange, taut silence fell over the table. The smile on Asher's face froze, his eyes wide. Why, he wondered, when they were having such a perfectly normal conversation, did they suddenly throw the grenade to him? He was just here for the food, an emotionless eating machine. Catherine Young tensed, her hand trembling slightly under the table. If they lost this lead from Asher, they'd be back to square one, digging through city records and chasing shadows. New York was massive. They didn't have the time or the manpower for a slow, methodical investigation. In the span of a second, Asher's expression shifted. He let out a casual laugh. Mac, you've got a wild imagination. I've never even heard of these crews before. I have no idea what they do. But since you asked, I'll pull some strings, see what I can find out for you. He shrugged, the picture of nonchalance. No promises, though. Keep it up, Catherine and Mac thought in unison. Just keep playing dumb. Never heard of them, my ass. That's not what your inner monologue was saying a minute ago. All that deflection was just a lead-up to the final, non-committal brush-off, wasn't it? They were both completely exasperated. Asher's words were just noise. Anyone who took them seriously was an idiot. The real gold was in what he was thinking. Here it comes. Instantly, both women's eyes lit up, their hearts pounding in their chests. Heh, as if I just tell you because you asked. Am I that stupid? Even if I did, you'd probably think I was some kind of monster. How would I even know this stuff? Nope, not saying a word. You could torture me, and I wouldn't spill. Not in this lifetime. But thinking about it? Sure, why not? It's not like they can hear me. Let's see. Where are the crooked-mouthed Dragon King's little clubhouses again? All right, since you asked so sincerely, I guess I could be merciful and share the details with my own brain. The Savage Crew operates out of a port in the southwest, probably somewhere in Bayonne, New Jersey. The Viper's Nest is over on an industrial street in Queens, disguised as a small import-export business called Serpent Global Imports. Real subtle, just naming it after your crew. Anyone not in the know would search for ages. The Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians. Asher felt their gazes lock onto him and felt a surge of triumph. They could ask all they wanted. He'd just keep stonewalling. He wouldn't tell these heroines a damn thing. They'd have to figure it out themselves. As he was reveling in his own cleverness, the system's notification chimed in his head. Ping, congratulations, host. You have gained stamina +1. The cold, mechanical voice shattered his good mood. Are you kidding me? He raged internally. What the hell is this? Goddamn system. Can't you be a decent person for once? If you keep stacking my stamina, someone's gonna get hurt. Seriously, this isn't a joke. He mentally screamed at the system, demanding an explanation. The system, in its infinite wisdom, completely ignored him, acting as if the notification had never happened. The only proof Asher had that he wasn't going crazy was the subtle, undeniable surge of energy through his body. A tiny increase, sure, but over time, quantity becomes quality. This was one reward Asher genuinely, desperately did not want. It wasn't him being dramatic. It was just, invincibility is so lonely. Invincibility is so empty. Well, maybe not empty. His stamina definitely wasn't empty. Of course, none of the women at the table could hear his internal conversation or the string of profanities he was leveling at the system. Right now, Catherine and Mac couldn't care less. They had gotten exactly what they came for. The only reason they were silent was that it all felt a little too easy, almost surreal. They blinked, exchanging a look. Mac's eyes widened slightly. We got it just like that. That was simple. Catherine's expression was deadpan. Seriously, talk about anticlimactic. We didn't even have to try, and he just folded. Just then, the food arrived, filling the table with an aromatic spread of perfectly prepared dishes. Thankfully, Mac hadn't ordered anything from the bizarre side of the menu. Everything was delicious and normal. A huge grin spread across her face. She immediately grabbed a bottle of wine and filled Asher's glass. Come on, cousin, drink up. You've earned it today. Asher looked at her, completely bewildered. I have to drive later. I'll call you a car service. Aren't we going out after this? We can go out anytime. But this moment, right now, with good food and beautiful company, this calls for a drink. It'd be a crime not to, Max said, pressing the glass into his hand. Asher sighed, defeated. Well, if you insist. He drained the glass. The moment he set it down, Mac refilled it. She then turned to Anya. Do you mind switching seats? I need to catch up with my cousin. Anya simply nodded and moved to sit next to Catherine. Before Asher could even process what was happening, his glass was full again. Come on, one down, another to go. After this one, there are only 3 more. Mac cheered. Aren't you drinking? Asher asked. Of course I am. What do you take me for? Then why haven't you poured yourself any? Oh, this? She said, gesturing to the bottle she'd been using. This one's all yours. The other 3 are mine. And I don't like using glasses. I prefer to go straight from a source. And with that, right in front of him, Mac tipped back a full bottle of red wine and chugged it. Glug, glug, glug. Asher's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Holy crap. This cousin of mine is a freaking animal. An absolute Amazon. She was acting like a frat boy on spring break, but with her stunning looks and bombshell figure, it somehow wasn't jarring at all. It was just, Mac, your turn, cousin, she said, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. Oh, right. Asher quickly downed the wine in his glass, then glanced at her. The crazy woman didn't even look flushed. Sensing his stare, Mac met his eyes and grinned. Let's keep it going, cousin. I'm just so grateful to you today. Grateful? For what? I didn't do anything. You not doing anything was more than enough for us. Come on, I'll toast you. With a bottle. I think I'll stick with the glass, Asher mumbled. The rest of the meal passed in a confusing haze. First Mac, and then even Catherine, kept toasting him, their words full of gratitude. All he'd done was eat dinner. Why were they acting so emotional? He was completely baffled. P.S. For the record, Catherine changed into civilian clothes before showing up for dinner. Weren't you the one who wanted me to show you around the city? The moment dinner was over, Max started shooing Asher out the door. He was speechless. The speed at which a woman's mood could change was truly terrifying. Mac just grinned. But I've changed my mind. Kate's a New Yorker. She can show me around. Asher glanced at Catherine, who raised an elegant eyebrow at him. You got a problem with that? She asked, her tone daring him to object. One should never, ever try to reason with a woman, especially not a heroine. Asher wisely shook his head. No problem at all. Good. Catherine sniffed, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips. Since Mac had a guide, Asher saw no reason to stick around and be a third wheel. He grabbed Anya, who hadn't touched a drop of alcohol all night, and they left, saving him the trouble of calling a car. Once the two were gone, Mac and Catherine looked at each other, their expressions electric. Mission accomplished, Mac whispered, barely containing her excitement. We got him. The Savage Crew, the Phoenix Syndicate, and the Sunstone Cartel are all in remote locations. Perfect for a military operation. Then the Praetorians and the Viper's Nest are ours, Catherine said. The NYPD can handle them. Sound good. Let me know if you need backup. Will do, Mac. First, I need to call Chloe. Catherine's face was flush with victory. Chloe deserved a massive thank you for this. If Leo Flynn knew that the secret factions he'd spent years cultivating were about to be carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey, he'd probably cough up blood. A moment later, the call connected. How'd it go? Chloe's voice came through the phone. Chloe, you're a genius, Catherine exclaimed, unable to keep the excitement out of her voice. The plan worked perfectly. Asher sang like a canary. Knew he would, Chloe said, clearly pleased. She'd been worried about how to deliver for Zara. Now, she could breathe easy. Kate, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Last night, Leo sent men from those crews to attack the Thorn estate. At least 20 people were injured or killed. That's 20 families who lost a husband, a son, a father. 20 families shattered. I haven't told Zara the details yet, but I want you to promise me. Don't hold back with those animals. The Thorn family might be a criminal organization, Catherine knew, but they operated by a strict code. They never dealt in murder for hire, human trafficking, or drugs. Family rules were ironclad. Anyone caught touching that stuff, whether core family or a distant branch, would face severe consequences. Minor infractions meant losing a finger. Major ones meant broken legs or all 4 limbs. Catherine took a deep, steadying breath, her voice turning cold and hard. Don't worry, Chloe. I won't. Every single one of them deserves to die. 100 times over wouldn't be enough. Compared to the Thorns, Leo Flynn's 5 factions were pure scum. They'd do anything for money. They had no principles, no bottom line. After hanging up, Catherine's eyes were practically smoldering. Guns up. Let's move. Kill Flynn. Burn the dens. Mac blinked, startled by her sudden intensity. Catherine's expression was grim. Mac, those 3 crews are on you. I'm heading back to the precinct to brief my captain. I want them to move on this tonight. I'll call my grandfather. If we're doing this, we do it together. Let's wipe this filth off the map all at once. Catherine nodded sharply and hurried out. Mac was right behind her. NYPD precinct. Midtown South. Captain Miller had just gotten back from lunch with a colleague when Catherine pulled him aside. As her commanding officer, he was used to her intensity, but he couldn't figure out why she couldn't just talk in his office. What she told him next made his blood run cold. She laid out the details of the Viper's Nest and the Praetorians, explaining their front operations. She omitted Leo Flynn's name for now, as they had no concrete evidence linking him as the mastermind. But when she described the 2 crews and their disguises, Captain Miller's face turned beet red. Son of a bitch, he swore, slamming a fist into his palm. Those goddamn animals are so good at hiding in plain sight. Who the hell would ever suspect that the city's most wanted criminals were running a goddamn law firm? And a decently reputable one at that. The very monsters they'd been hunting for years were right under their noses. It was the oldest trick in the book. The most dangerous place is the safest place, he muttered. He looked at her, his expression suddenly serious. Kate, how sure are you about this intelligence? Catherine didn't elaborate on her source. Whenever he'd asked in the past, she deflected. But after working with her for months, he knew she was a damn good cop with an ironclad sense of justice. She would never joke about something like this. A false alarm of this magnitude would get her fired, young family influence or not. The law was the law. Her gaze was unwavering. 100%, she said, her voice clear and firm. In that moment, she chose to trust Asher completely. To trust the boy she once looked up to as a role model. Even if the dragon slayer had become a dragon himself, it didn't stop her from trusting. His inner monologue. Miller nodded. Go back to your desk and wait. He turned and strode purposefully toward the major case squad's office. As luck would have it, he ran right into its commander, Captain Frank Nolan. Miller explained the situation in clipped, urgent sentences. Nolan's face hardened. He'd lost two of his best detectives investigating those very crews. Now that they had a lead, he wanted to move fast. But mobilizing the kind of force this would require wasn't his call to make. It needed the police commissioner's approval. The news had Nolan's blood boiling. His first instinct was to bypass the chain of command, to just go in guns blazing. He wanted those bastards brought to justice now. Waiting a day or two for the green light felt like an eternity. But his rational mind knew better. He had to report it up the chain. As he stood there, torn, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. It was the commissioner. He hadn't even figured out how to pitch it yet, and the call was already coming in. What a coincidence, he thought. Okay, Nolan, time to make your case. Best case scenario, he approves it for tomorrow morning. He answered the call. Nolan, get your guys from major case suited up and grab Lieutenant Cole's narcotics team. I'm sending you additional support from SRT. We got a live one. Nolan's brain short-circuited. He just stood there, stunned. The powerful, middle-aged voice on the other end of the line barked, Nolan, are you listening to me? He snapped back to reality. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir. It's me, Evan Liang's grandmother. My grandson is being bullied at school, and I want to sue the parents. I came in a couple of days ago to talk about it. Are you taking the case? Yes, of course, ma'am. Rest assured, the darkness will be scattered. Justice may be delayed, but it is never denied, a man in a sharp suit and glasses said with a warm, reassuring smile. We'll take the case. Since your grandson is still a minor, our first step will be to speak with his teachers, and if that doesn't work, we'll contact the other children's parents. The old woman nodded, her eyes welling with grateful tears. Thank you so much. You're all such good people. A flicker of contempt flashed in the young lawyer's eyes, gone as quickly as it appeared. He smiled and helped the woman to her feet. Not at all, ma'am. You're too kind. It is our mission to serve the people. As he was speaking with her, another person walked in carrying a framed plaque. Mr. Goldstein, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, our family wouldn't have known what to do. You're a lifesaver, a plain-looking middle-aged woman gushed, bowing repeatedly. The lawyer, a man named Goldstein, accepted the plaque with a practiced smile and offered a few platitudes before hanging it on a wall already covered in similar accolades. The new one read, wielding the sword of law to warm the hearts of the weak. Once all the clients had left, the dozen or so lawyers of Serpent and Associates Law burst into raucous laughter. Holy shit, I'm dying. Vinny, you got another one. You're on a roll, man. One of them snickered. Yeah, well, the stupid bitch should have given me more than a damn plaque, Vinny Goldstein grumbled. I won her a DUI case that should have landed her in prison. The least she could do is offer herself up for a night. Huh, no wonder they call you Vinny the Weasel. You'd really go for that trashy suburban mom? What about all the hot young things out there? You don't get it, man, Vinny said, flashing a row of tobacco-stained teeth. It's not about her. It's about the fact that she's got a husband and kids. I'm chasing a different kind of thrill. It's on another level beyond the physical. His explanation was met with another round of derisive laughter. Bang! The door to the boss's office swung open, and a morbidly obese man with a jagged scar across his face stormed out. What's so funny? Shut the hell up, he bellowed. Joey, go hang the clothes for staff meeting sign on the door. Now, a lanky man named Joey scrambled to his feet and did as he was told. The others fell silent, their eyes fixed on the scar-faced man. Boss, you sure that's necessary? We're in a pretty remote office park, one of them ventured. The fat man shot him a murderous glare. You don't know jack shit. I'm telling you to close up because we got a job tonight. The man who spoke flinched and didn't dare say another word. The rest of the room remained dead silent. The scar-faced man scanned his underlings, satisfied. The one he glared at was his wife's brother. In the old days, he would have just slapped him across the face, but things were different now. His environment had subtly changed him. Don't get it twisted. He'd still kill you without a second thought. But his rage was a little more controlled now. He wouldn't hesitate to get his hands dirty, but he wasn't as overtly volatile. You all should have gotten the word. The Thorne family pissed off the boss last night. I heard he sent the Praetorians over to tear their place apart. He grinned maliciously. I wasn't there, but man, hearing about it was satisfying as hell. The Thorns think just because they're big shots, no one in New York dares to touch them. Well, they messed with our boss. They were asking for it. His words were met with cheers and applause. Damn right. I can't stand those arrogant bastards. Maybe we can grab that Thorn princess, Zara, and have some fun with her. TSK. You're obsessed, man. A girl like that is way out of our league. So, I can just hire a girl who looks like her. It's basically the same thing, right? I can say I bagged the Thorn heiress. You, my friend, are a goddamn genius. Why stop there? Just get a mask printed with her face on it and make the girl wear it. Even better, right? Holy shit. Now you're the genius. The room erupted in laughter again until the scar-faced boss cleared his throat, silencing them instantly. All right, that's enough. The boss gave the order. It's our turn tonight. We're rotating through the crews. The Thorns will be on high alert after last night, so this is purely to mess with their heads. Let them know that beefing up security won't stop us. He paused, a cruel smile twisting his lips. Let them live in fear. Any of you who make it back alive tonight get a $10 million bonus. And the product? We're laying off distribution for a bit. But if you want to party, feel free to take a bag for yourselves on the house. The room exploded. The dozen men inside cheered and hollered. They were so brazen because they weren't afraid of being overheard. They'd rented out the adjacent office suites, ensuring they were completely empty. Who was going to hear them? A ghost. Just as the celebration hit its peak, there was a sharp crash. A black metal canister smashed through the window. Before anyone could react, several more followed. HSSSSSSSSS. Thick white smoke began pouring from the canisters. The smile on the scar-faced man's face vanished, replaced by shock and fury. What the hell is going on? Boss, did they find us? Nobody move. Cough, cough, cough. Cough. Boss, I don't think they're here to talk. Cough. They have evidence, otherwise why throw tear gas? Cough, cough. God damn it. Cough. Grab your guns. This wasn't a probe. This was an extermination. For the Viper's Nest alone, the city had deployed 150 uniformed officers, 200 heavily armed SRT operators, and 150 detectives from the Major K Squad. 500 personnel in total. The Praetorians, on the other side of the city, were receiving the same treatment. This was absolute, overwhelming force. They weren't playing by any rules. There would be no cautious approach, no drawn-out standoff that would give the criminals a chance to grab hostages. The NYPD had already cordoned off a 5-block radius. The assault began with a decisive, lethal strike. Why show sportsmanship to scum like this? Do they deserve it? Gino the Scar Moretti, the leader of the Viper's Nest, would die without ever knowing that the city had sent a small army to take down his crew of little more than a dozen men. His information was fatally flawed. He assumed it was a standard raid, maybe a few dozen cops at most. As he ordered his men to grab their weapons, he choked out another command through the tear gas. Burn it. Cough, cough. Burn everything. Don't leave any intel behind. Sal, Vinny, 8-Ball, you three provide cover. Cough. We're breaking out the side door. Burning the office meant destroying the computer files, the ledgers, all the incriminating evidence. But more importantly, it meant destroying the product, enough narcotics to get them all the death penalty. It was a two-pronged plan. 1. Go full psycho, guns blazing and shoot their way out. 2. If they got caught, the lack of evidence meant they'd get a few decades at most. With the other crews still out there, they could afford the best lawyers to get their sentences reduced. With a little luck, they might be out in 10, maybe even 5 years. The thugs scrambled, pulling out their weapons. Mostly handguns, with only 2 automatic rifles in the mix. They had never, ever imagined the police would come knocking like this. The firearms they kept were meant as a deterrent for rival gangs or unruly clients. After all, what's so unusual about a lawyer carrying a gun for protection? Okay, maybe it was a little unusual, but these weren't exactly legitimate lawyers. Being located in a dense urban area, the Viper's Nest was relatively lightly armed. They never fathomed that hundreds of men with assault rifles would come crashing down on them. Gino thought 3 of his best men with the 2 automatic rifles would be enough to hold the police off. He couldn't have been more wrong. The moment they stepped outside, they were met with a storm of lead that was beyond anything they had ever conceived. Daka 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 daka. A hail of bullets tore through the air. A round grazed Gino's arm, sending a spray of blood. His men were cut down one by one. In that instant, clarity finally broke through his tear-gas-addled brain. Grab hostages, he screamed, his voice raw with panic. There are too many of them. We can't break through. Less than 10 minutes into the firefight, half of his crew was dead or dying. The poor fight with precision. The rich fight with overwhelming firepower. You could try to be precise, but your enemy will just find cover. But when you blanket the entire area with suppressive fire, there is no escape. You can dodge, you can get lucky, you can have a miracle, but you only have to make one mistake. One slip, and you're turned into Swiss cheese. Gino was covered in dust and grime, his remaining men in no better shape. They all agreed with his frantic assessment. Hostages were their only way out, but there were no hostages to be found. The entire building had been evacuated. The few residents who couldn't be moved were being protected by dozens of heavily armed SRT operators on the floors above. Try to rush upstairs to grab someone would be suicide. Why hadn't they seen it coming? It was their own cleverness that had doomed them. By renting out the adjacent offices to prevent eavesdropping, they had also isolated themselves, cutting off any chance of an early warning. Less than 30 minutes after the first canister crashed through the window, only 2 men were left standing beside Gino. The ferocity on his face had evaporated, replaced by the primal, gut-wrenching terror of impending death. No one is born without fear, especially not men like them who had tasted the sweet life. The more you have, the more you have to lose. We surrender. We surrender. Gino shrieked, his voice cracking. The only reply was the deafening chatter of automatic weapons. In that moment, Gino understood. They weren't here to make arrests. They were here for extermination. Fear twisted into a final, rabid frenzy. He decided to go down fighting. Moments later, as he peeked out from behind a window frame, a police sniper's bullet erased his head from his shoulders. Similar scenes were playing out across the tri-state area. The Praetorians were better armed than the Viper's Nest, but they were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. After losing men in the attack on the Thorn estate the previous night, their numbers were already depleted. They didn't last long. The 3 crews operating outside the city were a different story. Their armories were extensive, rivaling that of small militia. They had stockpiles of weapons and product, always prepared for a rival crew to try and rip them off. But no matter how good their weapons were, they were facing a professional army, an army that outnumbered them more than 10 times over. Mac and Catherine hadn't just tricked Asher into revealing the locations. They had gotten detailed intel on the strength and distribution of each faction. That information was invaluable. If the authorities had gone in with equal numbers, the casualties would have been catastrophic. These were desperate men with nothing to lose, rabid dogs who would fight to the death. That's why overwhelming force was essential. A pack of rabid dogs, trying to take a chunk out of the hunter before they die, only to realize their teeth can't even break the skin. Even for men who claim to have no fear, watching their comrades get systematically annihilated filled them with a terror that shattered their resolve. The tree fell, and the monkeys scattered. They became a flock of startled birds, breaking formation and running in every direction. Their morale collapsed, and the fight turned into a rout. The faction leaders were in disbelief, their minds consumed by a burning rage. To mobilize this many professional soldiers and police to wipe them out. There had to be a mole. It was the only explanation. How else would they know the exact locations? How else would they know to bring 10 times the firepower? It had to be an inside job. The Sunstone Cartel's leader screamed as he went down. God damn it. When I find out who the rat is, I'll cut you into 1,000 pieces. The Phoenix Syndicate's boss cursed with his dying breath. Fuck. I was a genius my whole life, only to be killed by a traitor. Which one of you bastards betrayed us? The Savage Crew's chief roared in frustration. This is such bullshit. I could die an honorable death, but to be stabbed in the back by some sneaky bastard. I can't accept it. Whoever you are, you son of a bitch, I hope you're sterile. These are the final words of Leo Flynn's lieutenants. They would go to their graves never knowing the truth. It wasn't one of their own who sold them out. It wasn't a rival organization. The man who betrayed them was someone they had never met, someone who had absolutely no connection to their business. Asher Vance. Night fell. Inside Julian Kai's lavish villa, the delicate notes of a classical piano piece filled the living room. Leo Flynn sat on the sofa, eyes closed, savoring the music with the air of a seasoned connoisseur. In reality, he just thought it sounded nice. He didn't know the first thing about musical theory or composition. The main reason for his sophisticated act was the flock of beautiful women draped around him. Influencers and D-list actresses, their looks passable but nowhere near the level of a true heroine. Manny Marcos and Julian Kai had their own arm candy, but tonight's party was Julian's production. Upon hearing that Leo had a rough time at the Thorn estate, Julian had immediately arranged the gathering. After all, they were business partners, poised to make a fortune together. Spending a little of his own money now to soothe his convenient big brother's ego was a worthwhile investment. Every dollar he spent would come back to him tenfold. It was all about playing the long game. Essentially, He was using Leo's future money to solve Leo's current problems. A true master of the craft. When the time felt right, Julian leaned in with a smile. Big brother Leo, it's getting late. We should probably get some rest. I've had a room prepared for you. Leo raised a single finger to his lips, making a shushing gesture without opening his eyes. He remained lost in his musical reverie. Hush, not yet. Let's wait for this exquisite piece to conclude. The paid-for women beside him cooed on cue. Wow, Mr. Flynn, you're a true man of culture. It's so masculine. I'm in love. I just adore serving a handsome and sophisticated boss like Mr. Flynn. The flattery washed over Leo, making him feel positively magnanimous. Tonight, the Viper's nest was on the move again. Even if they couldn't kill as many Thorn family members as the night before, sowing chaos and fear was enough. So, what he was hearing wasn't music. It was the sound of the Thorn family weeping, the sound of their repentance. Anyone who dared to oppose him, the Dragon King, had to be prepared to pay a heavy price. Since Leo wasn't talking, Julian was happy to stay quiet. He hadn't made a move against Victor Stone yet, mainly because the man was impossible to find. As for Asher Vance, that was an even bigger non-starter. According to his informant, Asher was being shadowed by a stone-faced goddess of a bodyguard who never left his side. His informant didn't know who she was, but Julian did. Anya Kuznetsov, Nemesis, the world's #1 assassin. Even a battle-hungry warrior like Julian Kai knew better than to provoke that monster. He wanted to live a few more years. Thank you very much. The piano piece was halfway through when a phone on the coffee table began to vibrate. BZZZZZT. Leo's brow furrowed, but he kept his eyes closed, maintaining his look of artistic bliss. Whose phone is that? Turn it off, he said, his voice laced with annoyance. A brief, awkward silence followed. When no one moved, Leo's annoyance sharpened. Did you not hear me? Turn the phone off. Manny Marcos cleared his throat sheepishly. Boss, that's your phone. Leo's expression froze for a fraction of a second. The women around him stifled their giggles, not daring to laugh openly. The embarrassment lasted only a moment before Leo's thick skin took over. Hang it up, he commanded smoothly. Yes, sir. Manny did as he was told. A few seconds later, it started ringing again. Determined to maintain his facade, Leo had Manny hang up a second time. But when it rang a third time, he finally gave up the act and opened his eyes. The first time, they should have gotten the message. The second time, they should have known better. A third time meant it was urgent. He gestured for the phone. Julian raised a hand, signaling for the pianist to stop playing. Leo glanced at the caller ID, making a mental note of the name. If this wasn't important, there would be consequences. You couldn't run an organization without rules. He answered the call. What? Dragon King, we have a huge problem. What is it? Could it possibly be more important than what I'm doing right now? The Viper's Nest, the Sunstone Cartel, the Praetorians, the Phoenix Syndicate, and the Savage Crew. All 5 factions have been wiped out by the authorities. I thought it was something serious. Wait, what the hell did you just say? Say it again. All 5 of my factions were wiped out. Yes, sir. Wiped clean. The feds were decisive. They left no one alive. Holy mother of... Leo's face went from flushed red to a sickly green. It was a level of rage so profound it changed his very complexion. You tell me what happened. I want every single goddamn detail now, he roared, his earlier suave demeanor shattering into a million pieces. The women in the room shrank back, terrified. They suddenly suspected that if this man were a cannibal, he wouldn't hesitate to start eating people right now. Manny and Julian both had a sinking feeling. This was bad. This was very, very bad. The man on the other end of the line stammered through the explanation. He'd only just gotten the news himself. It had come out of nowhere. No warning, no whispers, not even a hint of trouble. One moment, everything was fine. The next, it was an all-out war with live ammunition. No games, no posturing, just annihilation. Based on the report and Leo's own deductions, the conclusion was brutally obvious. There was a mole in his organization. Leo's eyes were bloodshot with fury. To his men, he was a savior, a messiah. He had given them new lives, and they had repaid him with betrayal. I want to know who sold me out. I want the name of that backstabbing, ungrateful son of a bitch. 1,000,000 deaths would be too good for him. Yes, Dragon King, we're already investigating. We'll get you a satisfactory answer as soon as possible. The call ended. In an instant, Leo Flynn seemed to age 10 years. His years of careful planning, his network of loyal soldiers, all gone in less than a day. Did it not cost money to recruit them? Did it not take time and energy to train them? And after they became self-sufficient, did their illicit businesses not generate immense profits that were now lost forever? Money money, money. But beyond the money, his primary weapon for crushing the Vance family was gone. He felt a crushing weight in his chest. Utter despair. Sensing his fragile state, Julian Kai discreetly waved his hand, dismissing the women from the room. Once they were gone, he approached cautiously. Big brother Leo, what happened? Why are you so upset? Yeah, boss, tell us what's wrong. Maybe we can help, Manny added, his face etched with concern. Leo's face was a dark mask of fury. His voice was a low, gravelly rasp. They're gone. All of them. The 5 factions I spent years cultivating in this country. Wiped out in a single day. Both Julian and Manny were stunned. With Leo's cunning, he would have taken every precaution to hide the locations of his crews. He was always meticulous, always careful not to leave a trace. How is that possible? Manny's grief was genuine. He felt Leo's loss as his own, and a wave of helpless anger washed over him. Julian, on the other hand, was a different story. The joys and sorrows of others were mostly irrelevant to him. Right now, he was just a fascinated spectator, waiting to see how this drama would unfold. Leo's eyes turned icy. There's a mole in my organization. A sharp intake of breath from both men. The factions being destroyed was a setback. A mole was a catastrophe. On paper, the 5 factions were run by their respective leaders. But in reality, all 5 answered to one man, Leo Flynn. He was the true boss. Meanwhile, the raids had caused a massive stir across the city. The authorities made no attempt to hide what had happened. This was a major victory in the war on crime, and they were proud of it. These criminals were monsters, parasites on society. The media outlets were all too happy to report on such a positive, decisive action. Of course, there was still a mountain of paperwork and follow-up to do. For their critical roles in the operation, Catherine Young and Mackenzie Prescott were hailed as heroes. Without their intelligence, the sweeping crackdown would have been impossible. Medals and commendations were surely on their way. At home, Asher was idly flipping through channels when a breaking news report stopped him cold. He shot up from the plush sofa, his face a mask of utter shock and disbelief. What the hell? The crooked-mouthed Dragon King's factions are gone. He knew those crews were the protagonist's secret weapon, his go-to force for all the dirty work the plot required. But with them gone, how was Leo supposed to take over the massive Vance Corporation? How was he supposed to be the villain-crushing hero? The more Asher thought about it, the weirder it got. He remembered lunch. Mac and Kate had asked him about the 5 factions, but they had seemed so clueless. If he didn't know, how did the authorities find out? He was completely bewildered. Had law enforcement infiltrated Leo's organization long ago and only just decided to spring the trap? Whatever the reason, Asher couldn't just sit back. He needed answers. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to his blocked list, and unblocked a number. He hesitated for a second, then hit dial. He expected her to ignore the call, or maybe just hang up. He was wrong. The phone rang for less than a minute before she answered. Asher swallowed hard. Are you free? I have a few questions for you. Not free, came Catherine's crisp reply. I'm in the middle of a vice bust. Asher froze. A vice bust? He took a sharp breath. My mistake. Sorry to bother you. She said, and the line went dead. Asher's eye twitched. Something this huge happens, a citywide operation to take down major criminal organizations, and your unit wasn't involved? You were out busting prostitutes. He thought about it for a second. Maybe it was for the best. At least she wasn't in any danger. It was probably an order from her superiors to keep her out of the line of fire. He took a moment to compose himself, then dialed another number. A moment later, a cheerful, androgynous voice answered. Cousin, what's up? Hey Mac. I wanted to ask you something, if you have a minute. Sure, shoot. I just saw on the news. The Phoenix Syndicate, the Savage crew. All those crews got wiped out today by the authorities. I thought at lunch you guys didn't know where they were. Cousin, hold on a sec. I'm in the middle of something here. Oh, you're on a vice bust too? Whoa, cousin, how do you know? Are you spying on me? Asher choked. Catherine being on a vice bust was plausible. She was a cop. But Mac was military. Since when did the U.S. military run anti-prostitution stings in New York City? He'd been joking, but she had actually said yes. Are you for real, Mac? Before he could say anything else, she cut him off, citing a busy schedule, and hastily hung up, but not before happily promising to treat him to a huge dinner in a few days. Asher was left staring at his phone, completely lost. Mac and Kate had said everything and nothing at all. I guess I'll have to wait until I see them again to figure out what the hell is going on, he sighed. At this point, the plot of his past life was completely unrecognizable. Maybe Leo's crews had just done too many bad things, and this was cosmic justice. But that raised another question. Wasn't this world supposed to revolve around the protagonist? No matter how evil Leo was, shouldn't fate have been on his side? What was different this time? Had even God finally had enough of his crap? In a bedroom on the second floor of the Vance estate, Zara Thorne's eyes sparkled. It was clear she was in a good mood. Chloe, what's this big secret? Why couldn't you say it in front of your parents? Chloe bit her lip, then took a deep breath. Zara, there's something I should have told you yesterday. Please forgive me for waiting until now. Seeing Chloe's grave expression, Zara's smile faded. She sensed that something was wrong. She nodded slowly. Go on. Yesterday, right after we left your family's estate, Leo Flynn sent his men to attack. Bang! Before Chloe could finish, Zara shot to her feet, her brow furrowed in a knot of fury. Her beautiful eyes seemed to burn with an inner fire. Chloe quickly grabbed her arm. Zara, wait, let me finish. None of your family members were killed. The casualties were all bodyguards. The tension in Zara's shoulders eased slightly, but her expression remained dark. Let go of me. They were still people. I know what you want to do, Zara. You want to go after Leo Flynn for revenge. Are you going to try and stop me? That's not what I mean. What I mean is, today, we already took care of it. We wiped out his entire operation. Not a single one was left. That's impossible. You've been with me most of the day. That's why you need to listen, Zara. I said we. It was me, Kate, and my cousin Mac. At that, Zara slowly sat back down on the bed, her anger giving way to stunned silence. Chloe let out a sigh of relief and quickly summarized the day's events. In essence, Asher had been the unwitting informant, and Catherine and Mac had been the swift, merciless executioners, wiping out all 5 of Leo's factions. It all made sense. They had barely left the Thorne estate when armed men showed up looking for trouble. Who else could it have been but a petty, vengeful man like Leo Flynn? Zara didn't regret making an enemy of him. She only regretted not acting sooner, not taking him out before he could do this. She would have gladly shouldered the blame and the condemnation to prevent last night's attack. Zara stood up again. Chloe, thank you for everything these past few days. But I have to go back. If you go back now, you're just going to get an earful, Chloe said, her voice laced with worry. I had Raina look into it. Your core family is all safe. She was already regretting bringing it up. She should have waited a few more days. The Thorne family was furious right now. The fact that not a single one of them had called Zara was proof enough. It wasn't that she had no allies at home. It was that her father, Marcus, was enraged. He had issued a decree. Anyone who dared to tell his daughter what had happened would be exiled from the family, no matter their status or past contributions. In truth, Marcus was trying to protect her. The dead couldn't be brought back to life. What good would it do for Zara to rush home now? A sad smile touched Zara's lips. If yelling at me makes them feel better, then let them yell. I know you're trying to protect me, Chloe, but I have to go back. Her mind was made up. Chloe knew there was no point in arguing. I'll drive you. Zara was about to refuse, but she saw the unyielding determination in Chloe's eyes. After a moment, she nodded. Okay. Meanwhile, at the smoldering ruins of one of the destroyed factions, fire trucks had come and gone, and the area was cordoned off with police tape. The fire was out, but all the electronic equipment had been destroyed. The evidence was all but gone, save for a few stray bags of narcotics that hadn't been incinerated. But compared to the vast digital trove that had been lost to the flames, it was barely anything. These bastards are disgusting. Try to destroy the evidence even as they were going down. Yeah, well, illegal possession of firearms and shooting at police officers is more than enough to put them away for good. The officers cleaning up the scene chatted as they worked. Nearby, Captain Miller was explaining to Captain Frank Nolan of the Major K Squad that the incredible intelligence had come from one of his own detectives. With his men's deaths avenged, Nolan was in a much better mood. He knew Catherine Young was considered the precinct's beauty, but at his age, with a family of his own, he didn't pay much attention to that sort of thing. I'll take the liberty of calling you Kate, he said with a genuine smile. You did an outstanding job today. I'm going to recommend you for a Class 1 commendation. If the commissioner says no, I'll camp out his office until he changes his mind. He instinctively started to raise a hand to pat her on the shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie, but stopped himself midway. Catherine was not only beautiful, but she also had the powerful Young family behind her. If she were a male colleague, he wouldn't have hesitated. But with all the young cops watching, it was better to maintain professional distance. Just doing my duty, sir. To protect and serve, Catherine replied, a faint blush on her cheeks. She felt a little awkward. In truth, the credit belonged to Asher. She wasn't the one who had uncovered the locations and details. She was just the courier. For a cop with a strong sense of justice, it felt a bit like she was taking credit for someone else's work. Captain Nolan, an officer, reported, jogging up to him. The computers are completely destroyed. The hard drives are melted. Forensics says there's no chance of recovery. Nolan's brow furrowed. That's a damn shame. At that exact moment, Catherine's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, Raina Gao. She was puzzled, but answered the call. Hey, is this Kate? I got something nice for you. I think you'll be very happy with it. It's no use to me anyway, Raina's voice was playful and teasing. Catherine blinked, momentarily confused. Raina? What are you talking about? The documents and files from the computers at those clubhouses you guys are cleaning up. How did you get those? Catherine asked, her heart suddenly hammering in her chest. Raina let out an exaggerated sigh. Have you already forgotten what I do for a living? You're a hacker. At least you remember that much. You called me Big Sis Raina, so that put me in a good mood. The files are all yours. Raina, thank you. You're my lucky star. You're the best. Catherine rarely showered people with praise, but this was a massive breakthrough. She blurted out every compliment she could think of. Raina just laughed it off as if it were nothing. A moment later, Catherine's WhatsApp pinged with 5 file transfers, each neatly labeled with the name of the faction. As it turned out, Catherine's call to Chloe, that small, seemingly insignificant act, had set everything in motion. Chloe had immediately contacted Raina and had Catherine forward the 5 locations. From there, it was child's play. With precise coordinates, Raina had roped in her brother, Kevin. The split was 100-0. She got 0, Kevin did all the work. Please, these low-level criminal enterprises with their garbage-tier security software, it wasn't even worth her time. The grunt work was perfect for Kevin, even if the faction leaders had hired so-called computer experts to fortify their systems. Those experts were amateurs in Raina's eyes. Captain Nolan. Catherine's face was alight with excitement as she hurried back to the group of detectives. Nolan and his colleagues were in the middle of a debrief. Seeing her approach, he paused, a broad smile on his face. Kate, what's up? She had done him a huge service today. Of course he was happy to see her. Whatever she needed, he would help if he could. Sir, I found the document from the destroyed computers, she said, getting straight to the point. The men around him stared at her as if she'd grown a second head. Officer Young, you can't joke about something like that. Holy crap. All the computers were melted into slag. How could you possibly find anything? Nolan frowned at his men. Quiet. Let her finish. He then turned back to Catherine, his expression changing back to a warm, encouraging smile. Kate, could you explain what you mean? She nodded. Of course, you couldn't recover data from a melted hard drive. The only way was to infiltrate the systems before they were destroyed, which is exactly what had happened. She didn't mention Raina by name. An act of vigilantism, this advanced, was something that would require a mountain of paperwork and formal reports. Hacking into 5 separate, secured criminal networks in a single afternoon? It was beyond belief. If they had sent the NYPD's own cybercrime unit, a team of a dozen elites, they might not have breached even one of those systems in that time. The official team was good, no doubt. But the criminals weren't idiots either. In a battle of equals, the defender always has the advantage. The defender can make mistakes. The attacker only needs to slip up once, get hit with a virus, and it's game over. After Catherine's explanation, Nolan and his men could no longer contain themselves. Their faces lit up with pure joy, their hearts pounding with excitement. As the captain, Nolan managed to maintain a shred of composure, but just barely. No one asked about the hacker. It was an unspoken agreement. They would turn a blind eye. Catherine wasted no more time and forwarded the 5 documents to Nolan. Ping, ping, ping. A series of notifications echoed in the quiet evening. Nolan's breathing grew ragged. He swallowed hard and clicked open one of the files. His eyes were glued to the screen, his hand trembling slightly as he scrolled. The other detectives crowded around, holding their breath. After a long moment, Nolan finally broke. He threw his arms up in the air, dancing a little jig of pure, unadulterated joy. He looked like a man possessed. This is it. This is it. It's all here. Every last goddamn piece of evidence. In his excitement, he instinctively turned to hug Catherine. Remembering himself at the last second, he swerved and grabbed the nearest male detective, pulling him into a bone-crushing embrace. The detective, a young man, turned bright red, utterly bewildered. Nolan was usually a stern, demanding captain. One mistake in the field could get you killed. Seeing him like this was a shock. After a moment, Nolan released his subordinate. Kate, Officer Young, on behalf of the entire Major Case Squad, thank you. This is another massive contribution. I'm going to recommend you for 2 Class 1 commendations. No, screw that. I'm going to fight to get you the Medal of Honor for this, he said, his voice ringing with sincerity. Catherine was dazed. A Class 1 commendation and the Medal of Honor? It was all happening so fast. She had always dreamed of earning such accolades, but she knew they didn't come easy. They came from life-or-death situations, from walking a razor's edge where one wrong move could mean never going home again. But Nolan wasn't exaggerating. Without her intelligence, who knows how long those monsters would have remained at large. And obtaining reliable intel is an incredibly difficult, expensive, and dangerous process. Not to mention the risk of a bloody, drawn-out battle at the end. But with Catherine's intel, they had reversed the dynamic. They had steamrolled the enemy with 0 casualties on their side. That alone was worth the highest honors. Catherine's mouth hung open slightly, looking more like a dumbstruck girl next door than a decorated hero cop. This time, she didn't offer any platitudes. She just said, "Thank you, sir," and quietly walked away. Heh, Asher Vance. Ash, just how many more secrets are you hiding? She thought to herself, a sly smile touching her lips. I think it might be time for another little visit. While everyone else was celebrating their victory, the shrewd daughter of the Yang family was already plotting her next shakedown. If the crooked-mouthed Dragon King knew the truth, he would weep bitter, bitter tears. The next day, Asher woke up early after a sleepless night. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. How could the protagonist, Leo Flynn, manage to screw up so spectacularly? From the moment Asher had been reborn, the so-called crooked-mouthed Dragon King had been nothing but a disappointment. Asher felt like he'd practically gift-wrapped opportunities for him, but Leo was just too inept to take them. First, he'd fumbled his chance with the #1 heroine, Serafina Hayes. All he had to do was be a competent security guard, and his protagonist's luck would have eventually drawn her to him. But no, he had to be an idiot. And to be fair, it wasn't all Leo's fault. For some inexplicable reason, all the heroines in this timeline were completely out of character. They were practically throwing themselves at Asher. He didn't know if Leo was just fated to be cuckolded or if something else was at play. Every single one of them had gone off script. There was another factor contributing to his melancholy, Scarlet Jo. As the saying goes, a single night as husband and wife creates a bond of 100 days. Over the past few weeks, the she-devil hadn't whispered any sweet nothings, but her actions have been incredibly thoughtful, warm, and comforting. Asher's stoic, unshakable resolve had proven to be utterly useless against her sugar-coated offensive. To his absolute shock, he had found himself entertaining the thought of not wanting to go back. A moment of pleasure is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. Since then, the king has not held his morning court. It was a battle between the rational and the emotional. People always talk about being rational, but that's easy when you're not the one in the hot seat. When you're the one being talked about, rationality goes out the window. Emotion takes over. Joy, anger, sorrow, fear, it's all emotion. Asher was a man, not a saint. In his past life, he could have been a great actor, a great director, dispassionately playing his part. But this time, he was trapped in the play. Maybe I should sleep in a separate room from the she-devil for a while. The thought popped into his head. And then there was the damn system. It kept piling on the stamina. He might not get tired, but the she-devil certainly did. He chuckled and pushed the thought away. He took Anya and headed to work. Today was the day Scarlet officially took over as the head of the Jo family. There were only a few dissenting votes from relatives who clearly had no conscience. The rest were all in favor. Just as Asher's mindset had changed, so had the she-devils. She used to be obsessed with power, believing that only what she held in her own hands was real. But now, her attitude had done a complete 180. All she wanted was a small family, to raise children, to pour her energy into them. The achievement she had craved, the one that would have cemented her legacy, the oil bond investment, Asher had already delivered for her. It was an unprecedented victory, a move that made even the world's most legendary investors call a miracle from God. After taking control of the family, she simply handed the day-to-day operations back to her father, Richard, content to offer advice from behind the scenes. Back in his office, Asher found himself listless. With Leo's factions gone, the main force he would have used to devour the Vance family was eliminated. It meant his momentum was broken. To cultivate a new force of loyal, die-hard soldiers in a short time was next to impossible. You could buy madmen to do your bidding, sure, but those same madmen would sell you out for a higher price. Asher's gaze fell on Anya, and he sank into deep thought. She was in her usual black pantsuit, her hair tied back in a sleek ponytail, exuding an air of sharp competence. Her looks were, of course, flawless. Her physique was toned and powerful from constant training. The thought that was making him hesitate was a dangerous one. That idiot Dragon King played himself right out of the game. What a moron. His own men turned on him. Serve him right. He must not have paid them enough. You get what you pay for, you cheap bastard. My hopes of going home are getting slimmer by the day. And that damn hashtag Ewan at hashtag Ewan system won't give me a straight answer. I'm so sick of this. Screw this plot. From this day forward, I'm rebelling against that idiot author. Ping. Congratulations, host. You have gained advanced Krav Maga mastery. Asher almost spat out his coffee. He had just been thinking it, and the system had rewarded him for it. Before he could process the implications, a wave of warmth spread from his core through his entire body. At the same time, Anya's eyes widened slightly. For the first time since he'd known her, her brow furrowed. She looked at him, her expression uncharacteristically curious. Asher felt her gaze, and the surge of fighting spirit that had just risen within him immediately plummeted. Oh crap, I almost forgot about this goddess of death. I might be tough and hard to kill, but my family is all soft and squishy. They wouldn't last 2 seconds against the Dragon Queen. My death is one thing, but I can't let anything happen to my family. Should I try to? Neutralize the Dragon Queen? Seduce her? She's human, right? She bleeds. Damn it. Or maybe sneak attack. No, I can't do that. She's been with me for so long. I'll have to find a way to fire her. Let her go. The kindest thing I can do. I'll bear all the pain myself. That crooked-mouthed Dragon King is too stupid. I have to rebel. It's the only way. The Dragon Queen is strong, but maybe I can hold my own against her. Worst case, I die. What the hell? What's she doing? Asher was startled out of his thoughts. Anya was suddenly right in front of him, their faces inches apart. Her bright, clear eyes stared directly into his. She wasn't wearing perfume, but a faint, pleasant scent wafted from her. Her lips parted, and for the first time, Asher saw an expression on her face other than blank indifference. Was that a smile? Do you want to kill Leo Flynn? She asked, her voice calm and even. I will help you. Do you want to kill Leo Flynn? I will help you. Asher was stunned into silence. He kept his face a perfect neutral mask, but inside, his mind was a raging storm. Holy crap, what does she mean by that? She's going to help me kill her own boss. Wait, that's not the most important part. The most important part is, how did you know what I was thinking? He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He didn't dare make a move. For all he knew, this was a trap. After spending so much time together, it wasn't impossible that she had figured out his thought patterns. This could be her predicting his rebellion, getting him to confess before she took him down. He could already imagine 100 different ways he could die. You're wondering how I know what you're thinking, aren't you? Anya stated flatly, verbalizing his exact thoughts. Asher jumped. Seeing that she wasn't making any other moves, he gave a hesitant nod. Anya's lips parted. I don't know when you figured out my identity, but I'll be honest. I don't like Leo Flynn. So, I've decided to help you kill him. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Sometimes, all it takes is a single look to build trust. Staring into Anya's bright, clear eyes, devoid of any deceit, Asher found himself believing her. But it was just so. Out there. I don't like him, so I'll kill him. That was definitely her style. The poor, cuckolded Dragon King was going to be devastated. The shock was immense. Asher took a moment to compose himself. How am I supposed to believe you? He didn't care how she knew. All he wanted was a definitive answer. Gaining Anya as an ally would be an incredible advantage. If he was going to rebel, he was going all in. The last thing he wanted was for this to be some elaborate ruse, a pincer movement with the crooked-mouthed Dragon King to take him out. If that happened, he wouldn't even have a chance to cry. As he was lost in thought, Anya moved without warning. She leaned in and kissed him. This time, it was more intense than ever before. Her face was still a mask of indifference, but out of the corner of his eye, Asher could have sworn he saw a faint blush creep up her cheeks. At that exact moment, the office door swung open. Bang! Mr. Vance, you have a meeting this after, what? Jasmine Zhang's eyes went wide as saucers, her mouth hanging open. Oh my God, what was she seeing? Her boss was making out with his bodyguard in the middle of the office. Ugh, the shame, the absolute disgrace. Her throat went dry. She swallowed hard. She sniffled, and then, to Asher's utter horror, she silently backed out of the room, gently closing the door behind her. An eternity seemed to pass before Anya finally broke the kiss. Pup! Asher gasped, gulping in fresh air. Anya calmly took a tissue from the box on his desk and elegantly dabbed her lips. Then, whether intentionally or not, she muttered something she never had before. Getting better at this. Asher's face turned black. What could he even say to that? He wanted to object, but she wasn't wrong. After a moment of silence, Anya looked at him, her face back to its usual blank slate, save for the faint hint of pink on her cheeks. Do you believe me now? She asked, her voice even. He stared at her. She stared back. Neither of them spoke. In that moment, something clicked for Asher. Anya might be socially awkward, but she was far from stupid. Would a woman with her personality kiss a strange man? Never, unless she had acknowledged him on some level. Forget kissing. If you so much as grabbed her hand without permission, you'd be lucky to keep your arm. A shiver went down his spine as another, much bigger realization hit him. This was her pledge of allegiance. But it was a pledge she had seemingly made a long, long time ago. He remained silent. Anya waited patiently. After another long moment, having finally processed the bombshell revelations, Asher spoke. All right, I believe you. The words were barely out of his mouth when Anya leaned in again. Wait. Asher threw his hands up to stop her, but it was too late. Half an hour later, Anya finally released him. My lips are numb. Holy hell. How was the Dragon Queen even more intense than the She-Devil? Is it because of her ancient martial arts training? The She-Devil is a normal person, but the Dragon Queen is a cultivator. So, setting aside the systems. Enhancements. Does that mean we're on equal footing now? Okay, one major threat has been neutralized, but there's still another one, Cassandra Lee. I wonder what her situation is. Should I ask the Dragon Queen to act as an envoy? Invite them, execute them, or make them my dogs? Well, make them my allies. Asher didn't know how much intel Cassie had already leaked to Leo, but he was willing to let it slide. All he wanted was to eliminate the son of fortune, Leo Flynn. Once he was gone, Asher would be safe. If the Dragon's Den wanted revenge, so be it. Asher wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, but he preferred a peaceful solution if possible. Of course, Leo was the exception. One was the protagonist, the other the villain. One of them had to die for this to end. In a world with ancient martial arts, who cared about science? Asher didn't want to be enjoying a quiet life with his wife and kids one day, only for Leo to pop out of nowhere and put a bullet in him. The universe had a sixth sense of humor. No matter how well he planned, fate would find a way to screw him over. One mistake, and his whole family could be wiped out. He couldn't risk it. I'll go talk to Seraph. We're on good terms, Anya said suddenly. Asher gave her a complicated look. Oh, I know what kind of good terms you two are on. Ahem. Just do what you can. Don't force it. He paused, then asked, what are the chances you can get her to flip? Anya knew he was still skeptical, so she did something that left him speechless. She smoothly drew the razor-sharp dagger she always carried. It danced in her hand, a blur of silver light, her fingers moving with impossible dexterity. 100%, she said, her eyes glinting like the steel in her hand. Asher Vance drew in a sharp breath. They say you get an education so you can speak calmly to idiots, and you learn to fight so idiots will speak calmly to you. In that moment, Asher achieved enlightenment. He had to try and stop her. The Dragon Queen marching into an office with a knife was bad. Bad for optics. The people in there were civilians. If they called the cops and got her arrested, it would be a massive headache. And make no mistake, Asher wasn't afraid of what the police might do to Anya. He was terrified of what Anya, in a fit of pique, might do to the police. Then he'd be the one bailing her out of a holding cell downtown. Who was the real victim here? Hey, Anya. He started, clearing his throat. I need to talk to you about something. But she didn't give him the chance. In a flash, she was out of his office and gone. Asher stood there for a moment, stunned. He tried to console himself. Well, maybe this is for the best. It takes a monster to catch a monster. If Cassie Lee really wants to keep playing games, she's just signing her own death warrant. He felt a wave of relief wash over him. Relief my ass. Asher shot up from his executive chair, his expression a tangled mess of panic and frustration. Anya, get back here. He bolted after her. With the Dragon Queen's unique personality, she was liable to start swinging first and skip asking questions entirely. Injuring someone was one thing. A dead body was a whole other level of paperwork. Asher couldn't stand the thought of seeing the Dragon Queen behind bars. He wouldn't let that happen. In a more secluded wing of the Vance Corporation Tower was a studio-like office that housed some of the company's top female talent. At the moment, a half-dozen beautiful women were gathered, periodically glancing toward their manager's office door, their brows furrowed with unspoken anxieties. Suddenly, the main door swung open and a figure strode in, startling them. The newcomer didn't even glance their way, making a beeline straight for the manager's office. The women's expressions shifted rapidly, from curiosity to alarm, and finally to desperate urgency. They all stood, moving to intercept. Excuse me, please wait. If you have a question, you can talk to us. That's right, ma'am. Whatever the issue is, we can help. Cassie is taking a nap and doesn't like to be disturbed. They had all experienced Cassie Lee's methods firsthand. They were terrifying, soul-crushing. Just thinking about her inhumane techniques made them shudder. The tears in my heart flowing like a river. But it wasn't all bad. Cassie had taught them a lot, like a ruthless but effective mentor. She wasn't a good woman, but she was an undeniably good teacher. And putting the lessons aside, as Cassie's protégés, the pay was outrageously good. Their base salaries were already generous for the industry, around $20,000 to $30,000 a month. But since becoming Cassie's favorites, they were each clearing over $80,000 a month. Plus, Cassie was teaching them how to land a rich man. In theory, anyway. Practical application had to wait for 3 years. After their contract was up and Cassie's interest inevitably waned. They formed a line in front of Anya, but it was useless. With a few nimble steps, Anya flowed around them like water and arrived at the office door. Knock, knock, knock. The sharp, insistent rapping echoed through the quiet space. From inside, there was a sudden shuffling sound, followed by the rustle of fabric. Who is it? A pleasant, melodic voice called out, though it was laced with irritation. A single thought flashed through the minds of the women outside. We're screwed. It was only then that they got a proper look at Anya. To call her stunning would be an understatement. The women exchanged nervous glances, a silent conversation passing between them, born from months of working and living in close quarters. She's gorgeous. It's over. Is she going to become one of us? Almost definitely. Then we have to warn her. We can't let her fall into the lion's den. They wanted to pull Anya away, but the Dragon Queen gave them no opportunity. It's me, Anya said, her voice flat. You have 30 seconds to come out. Crash. The sound of something heavy falling to the floor came from inside the office. What happened next left the women utterly speechless. Cassie's voice, now stripped of its annoyance, called out, laced with an unfamiliar urgency. Coming right now. Beyond the urgency was that. A hint of terror. What the hell was going on? They had never seen Cassie lose her composure like this. In less than 20 seconds, the door flew open. A disheveled Cassie Lee stood there in a long, white blouse, smudges of lipstick still visible on her face and neck. But there was no anger on her face. Instead, she was plastered with a wide, almost manic smile. Anna, what brings you here? Anya just stared at her, silent. The onlooking women felt their worldview shatter once more. So, the invincible she-devil who ruled their lives had someone she was afraid of. Cassie's heart hammered at her chest. Her eyes darted to her stunned employees. What are you looking at? She snapped. Don't you have work to do? Scram. Go on, get back to your desks. Don't just stand there gawking. It's unprofessional. The women scattered like startled birds. The she-devil's kryptonite had arrived, and while they would have loved to watch her squirm, they still had to earn their paychecks. They scurried back to their workstations, though their eyes remained glued to the drama. After shooing them away, Cassie turned back to Anya, her ingratiating smile returning. Anna, you so rarely visit my humble little corner of the world. Please come in, sit. Anya nodded and stepped forward. As they were about to enter the office, a frantic voice echoed down the hall. No, spare her. For the love of God, spare her. Asher's panic shout reached them. The closer he'd gotten, the more he'd pictured the worst-case scenario. What if the Dragon Queen actually killed Cassie? Leo Flynn would get wind of it, and Asher's entire plan would go up in smoke. Forget dealing with Leo. If Anya committed murder on company property, not even he could get her out of that. He'd grown fond of his tail-swinging, emotionally stunted bodyguard. The thought of losing her left a hollow ache in his chest. He had braced himself for a bloodbath. So when he skidded to a halt and saw the two women standing there in perfect, nonviolent harmony, he was, to put it mildly, completely and utterly baffled. Baffled had just opened the door for his baffled grandmother, who was visiting his baffled grandfather. No, spare her. For the love of God, spare her. Asher's cry froze Anya and Cassie in place. The other women in the studio all whipped their heads toward the source of the shout. A moment later, Asher Vance appeared in the doorway, panting. Whoa, is that Mr. Vance? Oh my God, he's actually here. It's been so long. He's gotten even hotter. Are you blind? My man has always been dazzling. Excuse me, your man? The nerve. He's obviously my husband. I know for a fact he has abs. The studio erupted in excited chatter. Compared to the tyrannical Cassie, Asher was a harmless, adorable kitten. He didn't exude any of that terrifying boss energy. Cassie's own eyes were fixed on Asher's impossibly handsome face, a face the system had buffed with so many layers of charm it had undergone a qualitative change. Even for Cassie, the self-proclaimed queen of sapphic desire, the sight sent a jolt through her. A strange blush crept onto her cheeks as her heart began to flutter erratically. Thump, 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 thump. The sensation was so alien it startled her. She'd never felt anything like it in her life. Anya tilted her head, her expression a blank canvas of confusion. Spare who? At her question, the women finally tore their gazes away from Asher. Feeling a dozen pairs of eyes on him, Asher met the stares of the flock of beautiful employees, his own face a mask of forced calm. He offered a weak, awkward laugh. Oh, that. I was talking about this really fun mobile game. You know, start with a mythic blade, gear drops by fate. I wasn't yelling at you. As long as I'm not embarrassed, someone else is. As a CEO, Asher didn't owe anyone an explanation. He could fire whomever he wanted, whenever he wanted, without giving a reason. He'd expected his lame excuse to be met with an awkward silence. But the reaction was the complete opposite. Boss, are you going to get us into the game? I love games. What game is it? Let me play too. Mr. Vance, I'll play with you. I'm a really good support. Count me in. Me too. Their enthusiastic response was so far from what he'd anticipated that the office suddenly felt like a party. Cassie's face darkened. It's work hours, she barked. Do you understand me? Work hours. The cheerful atmosphere evaporated instantly. She was a little pleased that Asher was here, but Anya's presence changed the entire dynamic. The only thought in her mind now was to get Anya out of her office as quickly as possible. After silencing her subordinates, Cassie turned back to Asher, a genuine, beautiful smile gracing her lips. Mr. Vance, please come in for some tea. Asher saw no reason to refuse. He and Anya followed her into the office. Cassie paused at the door, her gaze sweeping over the other women. Her smile vanished, replaced by an icy glare. Behave yourselves. Get back to what you were doing. If I find out anyone was eavesdropping, you're dead tonight. You've all seen what I can do. If you want another taste of that living hell, I'll be happy to oblige. A spoonful of sugar followed by a slap. After sufficiently terrifying her staff, Cassie stepped inside and shut the door. She knew these little vixens all too well. Ugh, that shameless witch. Seriously, she gets all the perks. I'm so mad. Equals the nerve. The boss doesn't belong to you. He belongs to everyone. Summer, do you think the boss's wife knows you said that? He just got married. SSSS. That's the best part. A married man is peak hotness. Haven't you noticed he's even more charming than before? Married men are the best. They whispered amongst themselves, but it was just talk. None of them had the courage to actually make a move. Even if they did, a man like Asher wouldn't look twice at them. It was fun to dream, though. Back in the office, Cassie was bustling around, cheerfully preparing tea. Asher had taken a seat in the large executive chair, not by choice, but because Cassie had insisted. He tried to refuse, but she wouldn't take no for an answer, practically dragging him into it. The scent of perfume in the room was overwhelming. Asher sniffed the air. There had to be at least 10 different brands mixed together. Recalling Cassie's particular hobbies, he wasn't surprised. Oh, carrot. Oh, this is nice. She's really made this place her home. I have no regrets giving it to her. I'd pay any amount of money. Love is like a tide that surrounds us. Wow, it's strong in here. Wish I could open a window. Screech. Cassie slid open a window. She glanced at the stunned Asher, a seductive curve playing on her lips. Don't mind me, boss. It's a personal hobby. I just love perfume. She gestured around the room. And is it really so excessive for a woman to own 10 different brands? Are you using them on yourself? You using them on other people? You depraved. You have no shame. Not at all, Asher said, shaking his head. Cassie's smile twitched. Her eyes flickered toward the serenely composed Anya. Damn it. If Anya hadn't been here, Cassie would have absolutely manufactured an accident, a trip, a stumble, a hug that just so happened to transition into a perfect, bone-jarring shoulder throw. She could have just blamed it on her reflexes. Asher wouldn't have made a big deal out of it. After taking a sip of tea, Asher sat up straight and shot Anya a meaningful look. Time to get down to business. Anya nodded and fixed her gaze on Cassie. Cassie had been mentally preparing for this, but she still felt a knot of tension tighten in her stomach. Asher's internal monologue, besides the complaints, had revealed everything. Rebellion. It was time for a revolution. Time to come clean, Anya said, her voice devoid of emotion as she looked at Cassie. In truth, Cassie already knew the gist of it from Asher's mental broadcast. The infamous tofu queen first bit her lip, putting on a show of profound inner conflict. Then, the performance began. I'm so sorry, boss, she said, her voice trembling. I was sent here by Leo Flynn to hurt you. I didn't want to come, I swear. I knew you were a good person. Asher was baffled. A good person? Do good people deserve to get screwed over? Wait, that sounds suspiciously like she's putting me in the friend zone. At a subtle glance from Anya, Cassie continued her act. Her performance was a little raw compared to a master thespian like Asher, but it was more than enough to put most pretty boy actors to shame. From the moment I started here, it felt like I'd come home. I was so happy. I mean, I didn't even go home for New Year's Day because this is my home, Cassie declared, her voice filled with genuine passion. This threw Asher for a loop. He had prepared a whole speech to persuade her to stay, to turn against the crooked-mouthed Dragon King. He never expected this. Listening to Cassie's impassioned tirade, it was clear she despised Leo Flynn and was fiercely loyal to Asher, the kind of loyalty you couldn't chase away with a stick. The recruitment was going more smoothly than he could have ever imagined. The entire conversation consisted of Cassie recounting Leo's many sins, his stinginess, his crude manners, his greed. She left no stone unturned, and she wasn't wrong. Everything she said was an undeniable fact. At one point, Anya casually drew her knife and began to polish it, her eyes never leaving Cassie. Both Asher and Cassie saw the movement. Asher jumped. Look how cooperative Cassie is being. She's telling us everything, and you're still threatening her with a knife? Anya didn't say a word, but her presence was a crushing weight in the room. Of course, Cassie's indignation wasn't an act. Asher believed her, and it definitely wasn't because Anya was sitting there brandishing a weapon. I'm glad you could tell me this, Asher said with a smile. And I'm very pleased with your attitude. From now on, we're family. Cassie blinked, a faint blush dusting her cheeks. Family? She repeated, confused. What the hell is he talking about? What family? Don't just throw words like that around. I'm not. I didn't. I still like women, damn it. Don't think you can win me over just because you're the most handsome man I've ever seen. Let me tell you, give up that fantasy right now. Oblivious to her inner turmoil, Asher nodded seriously. Yes, family. And families don't keep secrets from each other. Families stick together. Families present a united front, which is why Leo Flynn must die. Cassie was stunned. A moment ago, when Asher had said family, her heart had skipped a beat. The feeling was strange, especially while looking at his handsome face and listening to his magnetic voice. She'd almost melted, but after all that build-up, he ends with, kill Leo Flynn? Was that really what this was about? Talk about a letdown. She forced a smile. You're right. Leo Flynn definitely has to die. They chatted for a few more minutes, with Cassie refilling Asher's tea. What's this? Suddenly, Anya's voice cut through the air. She reached under the teapot, her thumb and forefinger pinching something small and dark. Asher and Cassie leaned in, curious. What? What is it? Cassie asked, bewildered. A second later, her face flushed a deep, mortified crimson. Even she, in that moment, wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it. Anna, you are my nemesis. Were you sent here just to torment me? Asher's eye twitched. Well, now, he thought. This is something. Holy crap. The Dragon Queen is a legend. I bow to no one, but I bow to you. You adorable, clueless agent of chaos. Look what you've done. You get to have all the fun, don't you? Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Whatever you do, do not laugh. Asher, you are a professional. No matter how hilarious the situation, you must maintain your composure. Asher's face was turning purple from the effort of holding back his laughter. He pinched his thigh hard, again and again, until his expression was a pained grimace. Ahem. Anya, that's just an eyelash. Throw it away. Cassie, whose face was now the color of a tomato, nodded vigorously. Yes, Anna, just throw it away. An eyelash? It doesn't look like one, the Dragon Queen deadpanned, before casually flicking the curly hair into the trash can. Asher, sensing Cassie's profound humiliation, decided it was time to leave. After a few more brief exchanges, he made a hasty exit. He wasn't touching that tea again. Anya didn't follow him back to his office. Instead, she pulled out her phone and called Chloe. What did you say? My brother agreed to turn on him? Chloe's voice was electric with excitement. After waiting for Chloe to finish her happy squealing, Anya brought the phone back to her ear. Yes, Asher has decided to kill Leo Flynn. Chloe's voice turned hard. That man deserves to die. He absolutely deserves it. I've been waiting for this moment for so long. Anna, are you free now? I'll contact Raina. We should all meet to strategize, right? And bring Cassie with you. What about your brother? Anya asked. I'll have Victor Stone protect him. You two can trade off. Fine. I'll wait for him. After hanging up, Chloe immediately contacted Victor Stone. Asher had to be protected at all costs. For this meeting, Chloe was only including the combatants. She deliberately left out Jessica Young, Lena Unn, and Serafina Hayes. They could contribute money, but the Van Cess had more than enough of that. Besides, telling them would only complicate things without helping. Chloe wanted no more loose ends. This time, if they got a lock on Leo Flynn's location, they were going to end him. At the Gow family estate in Greenwich. No way. Chloe, your brother finally came to his senses? Raina Gao's large, expressive eyes were fixed on Chloe. She had already set numerous traps for Leo Flynn, deep, intricate ones. She knew that once Leo figured out the truth, he would come after her. As a professional hacker with a strong sense of self-preservation, she wasn't about to let that happen. The best defense was a good offense. Neutralize all potential threats. Chloe nodded, a wide smile on her face. He did. He's done following that so-called plot. Good for him. It was a dead end anyway, Raina said, crossing her arms. Zara Thorne, who had been sitting quietly, felt the tension in her brow release. A small smile touched her lips. Since returning to the Thorne family estate, her parents and relatives hadn't said much, but sometimes the cold shoulder was more punishing than any weapon. After a bit more small talk, Chloe brought them back to the main point. The priority now is to find Leo Flynn's location. He's in the shadows, and we're in the light, which puts us at a huge disadvantage. If that mad dog finds out we were behind the raids on his factions, he'll try to take us all down with him. Zara's expression turned to ice. He thinks he has the guts? He doesn't have the strength to take anyone down with him anymore. Yesterday's operation had torn out the tiger's teeth, destroying 5 of Leo's most important crews. On top of that, Anya and Cassie had defected, and Raina's own prodigy of a little brother, Kevin Gao, had not only switched sides, but had also wreaked havoc on the Dragon's Den infrastructure. Chloe's smile wavered. She nodded, then shook her head. He may not have the strength, but he can still go after the people around us. We can protect ourselves, but what about Jessica, Lena, and Serafina? Chloe had hit on the critical issue. The other women fell silent. The two with the most insight were Cassie and Anya. The Dragon Queen, aside from assassination, not much else held her interest. Cassie, however, knew Leo Flynn inside and out. Vindictive, petty. If you so much as bumped into him, he want to bite your head off. Here's what I propose, Cassie said. Until we eliminate Leo, Jessica, Lena, and Serafina shouldn't go out at night unless absolutely necessary. We need to keep them away from that rabid dog. It would be best if they hire more bodyguards, ones with real skills. Once this is over and the threat is gone, they'll be safe. The others exchanged glances. It was a solid plan. Anya, idly twirling her dagger, spoke up in her usual flat tone. All this talk just leads back to one thing. The only correct path is to kill the Dragon King as soon as possible. All eyes turned to Raina. Raina, have you found his location yet? Raina frowned. I have a few possibilities. The Marcos estate in Jersey, a penthouse in a building called the Violet Garden, another villa on the waterfront. But his movements are erratic, there's no pattern. Cassie sneered. Just like the old Leo, the cunning rabbit with 3 burrows. Anya said, then let's each watch one place. No, that's too risky, Chloe countered immediately. A cornered snake is still dangerous. Leo's fangs may have been pulled, but his own martial arts skills are still formidable. If we split up, we'll be picked off one by one, like trying to rescue family from a well and falling in ourselves. Chloe had experienced Leo's tenacity firsthand. The man was unnaturally hard to kill. Give him a single moment to breathe, and he'd disappear to some godforsaken place to lick his wounds, only to return stronger than before. He was like a cockroach. You had to kill him in one shot to make sure he stayed down for good. Ugh, Raina groaned, clutching her head. My power is limited. The area I can scan is too small. If I could just get access to the city's official surveillance network, finding him would be a piece of cake. She had been trying her best for days, and she swore she was losing hair over it. New York City was massive. Raina could only effectively monitor a fraction of it. The rest was a blind spot. Raina, if I get you access to the official network, can you lock him down? Chloe asked, seizing on the key point. Raina's mood flipped instantly. She shoved a handful of chips in her mouth and adopted an expression of supreme confidence. Just get me in. You'll see whether Leo Flynn lives or dies. If you want, I can even get you an uncensored, high-def photo of his bare ass and leak it online for the whole world to see. Not just killing him, but utterly destroying him. That was Raina's style. The others weren't interested in seeing such a cursed image, but broadcasting it online for the trolls to feast on was an excellent way to shatter Leo's ego. Under the pressure of that kind of public humiliation, his mind would break. Then a few well-placed bullets, and his body would break too. A double victory. Even someone as shameless as Leo would be mortified. Chloe coughed. Leave the official access to me. I have a way. Really? Raina's eyes lit up, crumbs of chips still clinging to her lips. Chloe nodded seriously. Really? Her first thought was her best friend, Catherine Yang. While there was no hard evidence yet linking Leo to the 5 factions, he was a person of interest. The NYPD couldn't just sit on their hands. And Catherine, having just delivered a major win, had some political capital to spend. Anya turned to Zura. Can you give me a sniper rifle? Zura didn't hesitate. What model? M200. I'll have it fully equipped with a suppressor and 2 extra magazines. How does that sound? How soon? Tomorrow. No, tonight. I'll have someone deliver it to you before midnight. Zara's voice was cold, her killing intent undisguised. Anya gave a curt nod. Good. At Manny Marcos' estate. Ah! Manny let out a high-pitched, agonized scream. Those useless bastards. They died and left a trail of evidence behind them. I could have spun this, but now I've got nothing. For years I fed them, trained them, built them up. I sharpened this knife for 5 years. And just when I was ready to strike, they're all gone. He dropped to his knees, his voice trembling. You traitor. You should have just brought the cops straight to me. Come and get me. I'm the one behind it all. I'm their boss. It was a painful realization. He was practically weeping. Manny had been the one on the ground, handling the logistics for those 5 factions. Nominally, Leo Flynn was the boss, but in many ways, Manny was the one who ran the show. He didn't care that the men were dead. He cared that they'd been stupid enough to leave evidence. Evidence that directly implicated him and his family. When he got the news, he felt like his world was splitting apart. Goddamn morons. I told them 1,000 times, destroy the evidence first. But no, they choke at the critical moment. They deserve to die. Leo Flynn stood nearby, watching in silence. His own face was a dark thundercloud. 10 years, he'd spent sharpening his sword, all for a single, decisive strike. Now, the sword itself had been shattered. How could he possibly remain calm? Leo glanced at the time, his pained expression flickering for a second. Julian should be here soon. The name snapped Manny out of his despair. He pushed himself to his feet, and the 2 men exchanged a look. A few moments later, a voice boomed from outside. Brother Leo, where are you? Where are you? Before they saw him, they heard him. The door to the upstairs loft burst open, revealing Julian Nightmare Kai and Manny's butler. Julian's eyes swept the room and landed on Leo, who was now sitting on the floor, looking utterly broken. His eyes were wide and vacant. Manny stood nearby, looking deeply uncomfortable. In a flash, Julian's face contorted into a mask of grief and fury. He rushed toward Leo. "Who?" he bellowed as he walked. "Who did this to my brother? Manny, you tell me right now. I will kill those animals and avenge him." Manny ignored Julian and simply waved a hand at the butler, who bowed and quietly exited, closing the door behind him. Just as Julian was 5 steps from Leo, Leo suddenly flinched, his eyes, bloodshot and swollen, fixing on nothing. "H, he screamed, a sound of pure agony that made even the battle-hardened Julian jump. But Leo wasn't finished. "Those useless bastards," he shrieked, his voice cracking. "They died and left a trail of evidence behind them. I could have spun this, but now I've got nothing. For years I fed them, trained them, built them up. I sharpened this knife for 5 years. And just when I was ready to strike, they're all gone. You traitor. You should have just brought the cops straight to me. Come and get me. I am the Dragon King of the Dragon's Den. I'm their boss. My name is Leo Flynn." Manny's eye twitched violently. He had to turn away. The second-hand embarrassment was so intense it was making his scalp crawl. "Jesus Christ, Leo, that's a new low. You just stole my whole monologue." Seeing Leo in such a state, Julian bit the inside of his cheek, hard, forcing a pained expression onto his own face. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and knelt, dabbing at Leo's dry eyes. "Brother Leo, don't cry. It's all that damn traitor's fault. As soon as we find him, we will cut him into 1,000 pieces." Leo looked up at him, his voice thick with fake tears. "It's useless. It's all useless. My men are gone." Julian blurted out, "I still have ahem." Leo coughed, cutting him off and grabbing the hand holding the handkerchief. "My good brother, that monster has ruined me. I never knew you were so loyal. I was right to trust you." Julian's smile felt frozen on his face. "What the hell is going on? I feel like I just got played, but I have no idea how." "My brother," Leo said, his voice now weak. "Help me up." Julian pulled Leo to his feet. Leo sniffed dramatically. Now was not the time for Julian to find out that the police had information that could incriminate Manny's family. If Julian knew, with his personality, he'd be the first one to jump ship. Leo was done playing nice. He would use any means necessary to bring down the Vance family. Once their fortune was his, he would finally be free. Why were some people born into a world of Rolls Royces and luxury, while he was born an orphan, starving and cold? He refused to accept it. Back when he was overseas, the resentment hadn't been so sharp. But returning to New York, especially after meeting a spoiled brat like Asher Vance, had pushed him over the edge. He had come to this city for three things: justice, justice, and more goddamn justice. He would redistribute the wealth. He would make the Vance fortune his own. He would tear down the sky itself if it stood in his way. I'm going to rebuild my forces and launch a full-scale assault on the Vance family, Leo announced. Julian's eye twitched, but then he remembered that Leo still had Anya and Cassie, his two trump cards, in his back pocket. That was enough to make the plan seem plausible. Brother Leo, what's your strategy? An excellent question. A confident, cunning smile spread across Leo's face. He snapped his fingers. Right now, Vance Corporation is at its peak, but a tall tree catches the wind. There are plenty of people who depend on the Vances for business, but I guarantee there are just as many who are praying for that tree to fall so they can pick at the corpse. After so many years on top, the Vances have made countless enemies. We will be the vanguard, the ones who strike the first blow for justice and for a world where no one has to suffer in poverty. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. First, we go to the media. We'll leak stories about their brutal work culture, how they profit from blood money. We'll dig up every piece of dirt we can find. If there's nothing to find, we'll create it. A corporation that big has to have skeletons in its closet, things they've paid to keep quiet. We'll just pay to dig them back up. I will be the one to expose their sins. I am the sworn enemy of evil. By the end, Leo was practically shouting, his suppressed emotions pouring out. He was a hero forged by circumstance, a hero who would shape reality itself. His passion was infectious. Julian was completely drawn in. Besides, taking down the Vances meant a bigger piece of the pie for him. His own family's businesses were constantly competing with Vance Corp, and while the Vances feasted, families like his were lucky to get the scraps. Who wouldn't want more money? Brother Leo, leave it to me, Julian said with a wicked grin. I've got plenty of journalists on my payroll. They love this kind of sensationalist gossip. They're masters of fabrication and exaggeration. Leo's lips curled into his signature smirk. That's step one. Public opinion can turn a good man into a villain and a villain into a hero. It's all about controlling the narrative. We have to seize this chance, drop bombshells, create chaos, and teach that useless brat Asher Vance a lesson. His eyes gleamed. Step two. Put Asher in a hospital for a month. Break his arms and legs. Let his parents and his new wife deal with that headache. With Vance Corp in chaos, we'll have more opportunities. The final step is to dismantle them piece by piece. Once the family is broken, it will be the perfect time to kick them while they're down. Dogs will always fight over a piece of meat. Leo paused, his expression turning solemn, righteous. I, Leo Flynn, will make the whole world understand one thing. Without the Vance family, the earth will still turn. Without the Vance family, the sun will still rise. Manny and Julian felt a jolt. The sheer audacity of his words was captivating. They were completely won over. As the Dragon King, Leo Flynn possessed a strange, undeniable charisma. Manny felt like he was seeing the light again. Julian felt like this could actually work. He immediately began to strategize with Leo. Meanwhile, at an NYPD precinct in Manhattan, Reyna wants to use our official surveillance network? Okay, well, that's not impossible, but I can't authorize it myself. I'll have to ask. Yes, don't worry, I'll do everything I can. Catherine Young hung up her phone and let out a long breath. Before, the idea of killing Leo had weighed on her. To bypass the law and execute someone who technically hadn't been sentenced to death went against everything she had been taught to believe. But after learning the true extent of Leo's crimes, her perspective had done a complete 180. The man was a monster in human skin. Any person with a decent moral compass would agree he deserved to die. His 5 factions had ruined countless lives and destroyed so many families. Against a villain like that, Catherine's tolerance was zero. She frowned. She knew the truth, but no one else did. In the Criminal Investigation Division, Captain Nolan, just as you suspected, there's more in these evidence files. We couldn't find any prior communication between the 5 factions, but according to these documents, they were all connected. Good. Keep digging. Don't miss a single detail, Captain Frank Nolan ordered, his hawk-like eyes sharp. Years of experience told him this was much bigger than it looked. Yes, sir. The officer nodded and left. A moment later, another officer appeared at his door. What is it? Nolan asked. Captain, Officer Young is here to see you. She says it's important, and she needs to speak with you alone. Nolan was surprised, but nodded. Send her in. Catherine entered his private office to find the formidable captain of the CID personally brewing her a cup of tea. Officer Young, please, have a seat, Nolan said with a warm smile. This is a special reserve green tea I've been saving. It's not every day you grace my office, so I had to break out the good stuff. The intelligence Catherine had provided had closed a major case for him. He was genuinely grateful. She accepted the cup. She was here to ask a favor, after all. Her own clearance level wasn't high enough to access the city surveillance network. Even her own captain couldn't authorize it. But Nolan was different. Catherine took a sip before getting to the point. Captain, I need to request access to the department surveillance system to locate a person of interest. Nolan paused. He had access, but it wasn't something he could grant lightly. Can you tell me why? Catherine chose her words carefully, following the script Raina had given her. We believe there's another party behind these factions, a mastermind. She wasn't just speculating. And as a cop, she knew the proper channels. She didn't want to put Nolan in a difficult position. Slam! To her surprise, Nolan slapped his desk and shot to his feet. How do you know that? His tone told her he was already on the same track. Her confidence surged. She explained that the information came from the same tech expert who had decrypted the evidence files, without revealing Raina's name. Raina's skills were now legendary within the department. The immediate threats had been neutralized, but a larger, hidden danger remained. Nolan couldn't stand for that. He thought for a moment, then gave a firm nod. All right, I'll help you. The tension in Catherine's face melted away, replaced by a relieved smile. Thank you, Captain. We're all just serving the people, he said, waving it off. When is your friend coming? I need to give the tech department a heads up. Let me ask. Catherine excitedly pulled out her phone and texted Raina. A moment later, she frowned, an awkward expression on her face. Noticing her hesitation, Nolan prompted, What is it, Officer Young? You can speak freely. Well, she said sheepishly, my friend isn't coming. She said she'll just send over a USB drive to plug into the computer. Absolutely not. Nolan rejected the idea instantly. What if it compromised the entire network? Catherine knew it was a long shot. They negotiated back and forth. Finally, Raina relented, agreeing to come in person, but only if she could wear a mask, sunglasses, and be completely covered. And when she was working, only Nolan and Catherine could be in the room. After a great deal of persuasion, Nolan gritted his teeth and agreed. The lead was too important. It seemed Raina had already found evidence in the files that pointed to a much larger organization. Besides, Nolan thought, I'll be there watching. What kind of trouble can she really cause? An hour later, after Nolan had pulled some strings with his friend, Captain Davis, who headed the tech department, a man who had absolute faith in the security system he'd built, they were ready. That old bastard made me promise him a bottle of my reserve bourbon. Nolan grumbled with a laugh. What kind is it? Catherine asked. If you like it, I'll buy you a case. Nolan almost choked. The glare of late-stage capitalism was blinding. No need, it's nothing fancy. A few minutes later, an officer escorted someone into the room. The person was wrapped in so many layers of clothing, from a heavy coat to a thick scarf, mask, and sunglasses, it was impossible to tell if they were male or female. If Nolan hadn't given the order, security would have tackled Raina on sight. Raina, you didn't have to go this far, did you? Catherine chuckled. Nolan's eye twitched. Raina's fashion choices were unique. He cleared his throat. You must be the anonymous citizen who provided us with the crucial intel. On behalf of the department, thank you. Your actions have saved countless families. Raina waved a dismissive hand. No big deal. The person who looked like a walking laundry pile added, her voice muffled, I've caught a cold recently, and I have social anxiety. That's why I'm dressed like this. Social anxiety? You? More like social supremacy. Nolan just smiled. He figured geniuses were allowed to be eccentric. Soon, Raina got down to business. She produced a USB drive from a pocket and plugged it into a high-powered workstation. A series of security pop-ups appeared. Who designed this system? She muttered. It's so clunky. This protocol, and this one here, are completely outdated. My little brother could hack this. He'd say even a dog wouldn't use it. Somewhere across town, Captain Davis sneezed. Is someone talking about me? Back in the server room, the rhythmic clatter of a keyboard filled the air. Raina's fingers flew across the keys so fast they were just a blur. Nolan, who had been worried she wouldn't know how to operate their system, felt his jaw go slack. Images flashed across a dozen monitors, appearing and disappearing in an instant. Leo Flynn's face popped up, and a map of New York City began to rapidly narrow its focus. She was doing the work of 10 technicians, faster than they ever could. Nolan was in awe. A single thought crossed his mind. He had to recruit her. If she refused, he'd just have to lock her up, not in a cell, but in a database, as a priceless city asset. About 30 minutes later, several bright red dots pulsed on the main screen. Raina leaned back, her eyes gleaming. Oh yeah, I am the best. Done. Captain Nolan and Catherine snapped back to attention, their eyes fixed on screen. Nolan was bewildered. All he saw were a few locations marked on a map. That wasn't what he wanted. He wanted evidence. He wanted leads. What was this? Had she come all this way just to play private investigator? This isn't quite what I was expecting, he said, his voice strained. Raina, realizing his confusion, pulled another USB drive from her pocket and handed it to him. Everything you want is on here. I organized it for you. Nolan stared at the small piece of plastic in his hand, dumbfounded. A stampede of 1,000 curses galloped through his mind. You had the evidence this whole time? You could have just led with that. Ignoring the stunned captain, Raina pointed to the screen. Catherine, write down all of these addresses. Catherine nodded and began scribbling in a small notebook. A short while later, she and Raina were gone. Nolan stood there for a long time, clutching the USB drive. Finally, he let out a deep breath. If it came from her, it had to be good. He turned to head back to his office, just as Captain Davis, the head of the tech department, came tearing around the corner. Nolan, where is she? He yelled, looking half-crazed. He grabbed Nolan by the shoulders. Where did she go? Nolan frowned, a bad feeling creeping over him. Who are you talking about? The tech genius. The computer wizard. What about her? Did she break something? Nolan asked, alarmed. Davis shook his head frantically. No, she didn't break anything. She upgraded our entire system. It's faster, more intuitive, more secure. God damn it, Nolan, where is she? I'm willing to get on my knees and beg her to be our new technical advisor. Nolan's mind was reeling. A legendary talent had been right under his nose. She left a while ago. What? Davis looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Nolan, why didn't you say something? You never asked. And besides, weren't you the one bragging about how your system was impenetrable? Impenetrable, my ass. If that woman had malicious intent, she could have torn through my entire life's work in under an hour. You're exaggerating. Okay, fine, Davis conceded, shrugging. It would have taken her less than 30 minutes. Nolan just laughed. By the time Raina and Catherine left the precinct, night had fallen. They found a nearby restaurant for dinner. So when are you making your move? Catherine asked, her eyes locked on Raina. Raina smiled. You want in? Before, I wasn't sure who the good guys were and who the villains were, Catherine said. Now I know. Asher Vance isn't a saint, but he's not a monster. Leo Flynn, on the other hand, is pure evil. He deserves to die. Raina nodded in complete agreement. She remembered how Leo had tried to haggle over her rates while making the most demanding requests. Pay the least, ask for the most. Who wouldn't hate a guy like that? Chloe's last attempt was too rushed, Raina said, sipping her drink. This time, we need a flawless plan. Be patient. Now that we have Leo's potential locations, give me some time. I'll hack into every security camera in those areas. The city itself will become our eyes. Even if Leo Flynn grows wings, he won't be able to escape. When you go after him, you have to take me with you, Catherine insisted. I can help manage the aftermath. Don't worry, Raina, she added, her voice turning cold. I have no intention of letting him see the inside of courtroom. That bastard doesn't deserve the protection of the law. Raina took a sharp breath, a satisfied smirk on her face. That very evening, a storm was brewing online. Videos began to surface across social media, accusing Vance Corporation of exploiting its employees. Several influencers with millions of followers posted scathing takedowns. The videos went viral, propelled by a wave of manufactured outrage. Unsuspecting people were swept up in the frenzy. WTF? I can't believe Vance Corp is like that. My dream company is a sweatshop. My life is a lie. LOL. Thought it was paradise. Turns out it's hell. Hard pass. So this is how the rich get richer. Taking notes. Of course, the people fueling the outrage were mostly those who knew nothing about the company. Anyone who attended a top-tier university knew that Vance Corp was one of the best places to work in the country. But smart people are always in the minority. Driven by bots and trolls, the tide of public opinion turned against the Vances. Their stock price dipped by a negligible 0.001%. At the Vance family home, however, everyone was surprisingly calm. Everyone except Chloe. Asher, they're obviously spreading lies. Are we just going to sit here and take it? She fumed, her cheeks puffed out like a goldfish. Asher had noticed that Chloe hadn't been hanging around with Leo lately. In fact, she had sent people to rough him up on several occasions. For once, his little sister's loyalty wasn't misplaced. His attitude toward her had softened considerably. Calm down, little sister. Not reacting is the best reaction. What? Think about it. They know they're lying. They're just trying to get a rise out of us. By staying silent, we remain untouchable. Our record speaks for itself. They're trying to claim the moral high ground, but someone else will always be there to knock them off it. Oh, I get it. You've changed, big brother. Change how? You never used to care about this stuff. That was then. Wow, that was almost profound. My dear, foolish sister, Asher said with a grin. Sometimes you need to use your noggin. It's a simple play. Don't overthink it. Shortly after the smear campaign began, the 30,000 official employees of Vance Corporation decided they'd had enough. From top executives to entry-level staff, they mobilized. Franklin Archer and the entire legal department didn't even stop for dinner. Archer, in particular, was offended. In recent years, his reputation alone was usually enough to make internet trolls scurry back into their holes. This coordinated attack was something different. My mistake, Archer posted on his official Twitter account. It seems the world has forgotten the meaning of pain. The rest of the legal team rallied behind him. Let's go, Frank. Make them suffer. Unleash the pain, brother. Time to drop the legal hammer on these clowns. Sue them all back to the Stone Age. It wasn't just the lawyers. Isabella Rossi, the stunningly beautiful deputy director of human resources, was also a fashion influencer with nearly 5 million followers on TikTok. Her feed was a masterclass in corporate chic, featuring a lethal rotation of black, white, and sheer stockings that had earned her a devoted following of online admirers. That evening, a colleague sent her one of the slanderous videos. Horrified, she immediately went live. Her chat was instantly flooded by her followers, who had transformed from admirers into a righteous mob. I can't believe you're part of a company like this. How could you lie to us? You think you can trick me into working overtime? In your dreams. I will never work overtime. The comments flew by in a blur of anger. Faced with the onslaught, Isabella's eyes welled up with tears, not of shame, but of righteous indignation. You think I don't want to work overtime? She cried in her camera. I would kill to work overtime. Why won't they let us? Why isn't 996 mandatory? Why is it only allowed during crunch time? It's not fair. Her audience was stunned into silence. They had seen people protest against overtime. They had never seen someone passionately demand it. Even if the pay is good, they thought, this is a bit much, isn't it? Isabella ignored the chat. She held up her employment contract, her manicured finger pointing to a specific clause. See this? She said, her voice cracking with emotion. Any overtime hours worked at night are paid at triple my normal rate. My base salary is $1 million a year. If I could work overtime every night, I could easily clear $3 million. But the company is so well staffed that we almost never need to. I want to work overtime, but I can't. Boom. The internet collectively short-circuited. Not double pay, triple pay. It was common knowledge that Vance Corp treated its employees well, but this was on another level. After a moment of stunned silence, her live-stream chat exploded. Triple pay? Sign me up. I've been eating hardship since I was a kid. If I don't suffer a little every day, I don't feel right. It's not about the money. I just get bored when I'm not working. Where else can I find a job that pays triple for overtime? I'm so sorry, Vance Corp. You are good people. I'm deleting my negative comments right now. Are you guys hiring janitors? I would like to sweep your floors. Clips from her live stream went viral. She wasn't the only one. Other high-profile employees at the company, seeing the attack on their employer, decided they wouldn't take it lying down. They could handle personal insults, but an insult to Vance Corporation was an insult to them. They launched a full-scale counteroffensive. As the truth emerged, the public realized they had been played by rage-baiting influencers. The tide of outrage turned, and the angry mob redirected its fury at the original accusers. Back at Manny Marcos's villa, the party was in full swing, complete with beautiful women, expensive champagne, and loud music. The Vances must be having a meltdown right now, Julian slurred, raising his glass. The plan is working perfectly. Leo Flynn grinned. It was the best news he'd had since returning to the country. Brother, say no more. To us. Cheers. Cheers. After a few more rounds, Manny Marcos, looking a little green, slumped back on the couch. Not drinking anymore, Manny. Julian taunted, already several drinks ahead. The night is young. No more for me, Manny mumbled, waving a hand weakly. What a lightweight, Julian laughed. I, on the other hand, am a champion. I could drink 1,000 glasses and not fall. His boast drew laughter from the hired women lounging around the room. BZZZT, BZZZT. Julian's phone started vibrating. Leo and Manny paid it no mind, continuing to drink and flirt with the women beside them. Leo was in a fantastic mood. Julian answered the call. The room quieted down. Yeah, it's me. What's wrong? Are you serious? If that angle isn't working, try another one. Do you have to be so one-track-minded? Damn it. What the hell is wrong with you people? You're asking me? How should I know what earth they have? I'm paying you to find it. Don't ask me what to do. If I knew, what would I need you for? Change the plan. Now, find another way to smear them. Money is no object. What? You don't want the money? Then what do you want? Do you want to die? Hello? Hello? Click. The line went dead. Julian's face was still stretched in a smile, but it was a terrifying, hollow thing. Everyone in the room had heard his side of the conversation. Leo's cheerful expression collapsed. Manny was instantly sober. He shooed the women out of the room, leaving the three of them alone. Julian relayed the news. To put it simply, their attempt to dig up Vance Corporation's dark history had backfired spectacularly. The dirt they found was a decades-long history of massive, anonymous donations to disaster relief and public works projects. For every $100 million they donated publicly, they would quietly add another $300 or $400 million behind the scenes. The overtime story had been thoroughly debunked, replaced with the reality of triple pay. This mirror they had held up to the company's black history had instead illuminated years of quiet, unassuming philanthropy. The public's perception had completely flipped. Now, Asher's lavish lifestyle seemed entirely justified. Who cared if a handsome, rich heir dated a few models? It wasn't illegal. If their father was Lawrence Vance, they'd be living even wilder lives than Asher. Leo's smear campaign had turned into the most effective PR blitz the Vance family could have ever dreamed of. In the space of a few hours, their stock had risen by a full percentage point. Sales for their subsidiary brand skyrocketed. What the hell is wrong with this world? Leo roared, his face and neck flushed with rage. These peasants are infuriating. In his eyes, the Vance's good deeds meant nothing. He was furious that the narrative had been stolen from him. That bastard is probably laughing his ass off right now, he seethed. We still have to take him out. No, not just take him out. Kill him. I want Lawrence Vance to know the pain of losing a son. I want Asher Vance to disappear from this world. He turned to Julian, his eyes wild. Junior, go find some men. Bring weapons. We're going to kill Asher, then lay low for a while and continue our plans. Julian hesitated. Brother Leo, don't you already have Seraph and Nemesis on the inside? Forget Nemesis. Seraph alone could kill a normal person without breaking a sweat. With both of them, Asher is already a dead man. Leo knew that, but he couldn't admit that his two most powerful assets had betrayed him. Just do as I say, he snapped, changing the subject. Killing Asher is a big deal. The more people we have, the safer Seraph and Nemesis will be. They'll need scapegoats to cover their escape. It will buy us more time. Julian was skeptical, but he couldn't find a flaw in Leo's logic. For now, it seemed like a viable plan. After Julian left, a crazed, unhinged smile spread across Leo's face. Asher Vance, you useless brat. What did I ever do to you? From the moment I met you, my luck turned to shit. Now I know why. There's only room for one of us in this world. I have never wanted to kill someone as much as I want to kill you right now. From this moment on, it's you or me. He was trembling with fury. I'm a master of this world. You just got lucky, born to a rich old man. Without your father, you are nothing. I will kill you. I will make your beautiful wife a widow. I will take everything from you and make you watch.